Guess who's back? Back again. Stevie, how you doing, my guy?
Yeah, good, man. Good.
Excited?
I am, actually. Yeah, we haven't done bourbon yet, so...
We haven't had this many guests in the studio, I think, ever, to be honest. Not in a minute,
Not for
certainly.
a while.
Not for a minute.
No.
Today, we've got two wonderful guests joining us. Jeff Whiskey, welcome. You probably all know and love his content. If you don't know him, go over to his channel now, check it out. We also have Charlotte, the brand ambassador, the UK brand ambassador for Maker's Mark here today.
How's it going?
We got two great episodes lined up, and we're going to start with the bourbon. And Charlotte, you've really stepped up to the mark here. Our audience at home have been asking for bourbon for a long time. As everyone at home knows, I struggle with bourbon. I really struggle. If I like one of these today, it will be a massive win. But I'm really excited to sit back and learn because you've just come back from America. Yeah. Very passionate about this brand. Yeah. You know an awful lot about this brand. And you bought 5 pretty fucking cool whiskeys with you here, right?
Yeah. The US was great. Didn't want to come back.
I bet.
Yeah, I had to though because I work from the UK.
Yeah, for sure. The title makes it so.
It's just such a different place, compared to London or anywhere in the UK. So going over there is always a joy, and being able to go over there for a month, which I'm shocked that they let me go for that long because I was like genuinely thinking they're probably not going to expect me to come back after this long. But it was great. I got a real different experience at the distillery to the previous time I went, which was only for a couple of weeks. You know, a month is obviously a long time, regardless of whether you're hosting people and, you know, you still have your downtime. And, I really got more hands-on at the distillery than I had during my onboarding or, whatever. So, it was ace. I got to actually do all the jobs in the still house. So awesome. I'm now a mini master distiller.
Amazing.
Without any of the qualifications.
It's the best way to do it, isn't it? You really get stuck in on the ground, understanding from the people who are working there, making the liquid. It's exciting. I have to say, regardless of the type of liquid or where you're at, there's always something new to learn.
It's such a friendly distillery as well. And, not that other distilleries aren't, and not that the people that work in other distilleries aren't, but it's a very different approach and a very different mindset. So, if you want to do something, all you need to do there is ask. It's not a case of like, oh, we'll see, who's around. But they're like, yeah, on you go. Genuinely devastated to be back, but whatever.
Such is life. Fair enough. Well, listen, massive welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to crack through the Maker's Mark first. I'm really excited. I'm
nervous, aren't you? You're a bit nervous today, Jake.
I'm just nervous I don't want to be mean.
I'm nervous
mate.
now.
I don't want to be mean. I want to be positive. I'm coming into this with an open mind. I have tried so many bourbons over the years. Most people start with bourbon and then move on to Scotch. I was just having a chat with Charlotte before we started rolling. I started with Irish whiskies and moved on to Scotch. And I've got a real sweet tooth. So bourbon should suit me, but I always find it too corn forward. And as I was saying to Charlotte, I've tried 2 bourbons in my life that I've liked, actually enjoyed. Everything else.
I'd be curious to know what their mash bills were, because obviously, like the corn thing with bourbon, it has to be a minimum of 51% corn.
Yeah.
Normally, you'll find with brands, and I can't speak for every brand. Obviously, I can only speak for Makers, but a lot of the ones I've tried are sort of like 70, 71, 72, and so on. So
maybe it was a lower corn.
It may well have been. I don't.
Because that's what I find. I struggle with it. The only thing, and again, I struggle to explain what I'm not enjoying. The way I put it is, it's too corn forward. It's like, and I don't understand why. Because I like corn, and I'm very sweet tooth, like I say. So
it should tick all the boxes. Yeah.
On paper, it's for me, but and I've tried 2. Like I say, one was a single cask, which had sold out a year or 2 before I even tried it. And then the other one was from the last drop. We went along and Drew Mayville had put together a batch of different vintage bourbons. It was £3,100 a bottle. It was really good. I'm probably not going to buy that. There were probably a few other bottles that I would buy instead. But I did enjoy it. I genuinely enjoyed that. But this is the thing.
You've got expensive taste.
I do, apparently so, right? So I hope you bought some special stuff with you today, Charlotte. Otherwise,
that's pretty much already gone in the UK.
Cool. Well, look, like I say, I'm coming into it with a completely open mind. I'm going to be as positive and as pleasant to be around as possible. Stevie loves his bourbon, so you're okay.
Scared.
You're okay. We've got somebody on side.
There's a lot of bourbon consumed in my house. I'm talking like, Yeah, my fiancée Steph, she can easily do a bottle over a weekend.
She tucks into some of your
like
nice
a good
stuff,
woman.
doesn't she?
Oh, that's the problem.
Yeah,
yeah.
I get messages from Stevie sometimes. He's come home after an afternoon filming or whatever. And Steph started on a few cocktails early, but tucked into his special fucking bourbons that he's got there waiting. It's like,
she doesn't like
half the
peat, so
bottle's
she's
gone,
like, "Has this
mate."
got peat in it? Yes. Has this got peat? Yeah, it's all got peat in it. Don't touch it. You won't like any of it." We've actually been drinking quite a lot of Old Forester. I know that's probably a competitor, but that's what I've been...
You know what? Just because I work
Is that
for
under
one
the same...
brand, no, just because I work for a brand doesn't mean that I
No,
don't
of course
drink
not.
Enjoy
I know
other
this is
brands.
kind
I
of
think it's like a
the Maker's Mark episode, but Old Forester, I've been tucking into them recently. And
Well, enough of that because it's Maker's Mark.
I know, this is why I'm very excited.
Yeah, how dare you? I'm kidding.
No, cool. All right. Well, look, I think the people at home more than anything will be really excited to see this. And if nothing else, they'll enjoy watching me squirm and not enjoy stuff maybe. So hopefully we'll find one thing. Jeff, you like bourbon?
I do. I would like you. I got into Irish first.
Right.
Irish was my gateway, and then I went from Irish to bourbon. I detoured Scotch completely, and then it led to Scotch. And Scotch is predominantly where I tend to be now.
Okay.
But yeah, bourbon, especially like the cheaper, easily accessible ones you get in a supermarket, like the Maker's Mark. Just the standard bottle's got a special place in my heart. I went on a mini moon. We couldn't do a honeymoon. There was a bug going around the UK at the time. So we went down to Isle of Scilly, and I've on a beach, Maker's Mark, couple of glasses, just empty beach. There's the dream. So I've always got a bottle on my shelf because of it. So
That's nice.
that's
I'm excited.
nice.
I am.
Tidy.
I
All
like
right.
it when drinks have like nostalgia.
Yeah,
attached to
the
them,
memory
spirits
next to it just
even.
enhances the drink a little bit more. Not that
It's like trying something like where it's from,
Yeah.
like drinking sherry in Jerez or drinking bourbon in Kentucky. It's just like a very different experience. It brings out more character. I think.
the added magic.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Well, let's. With all that said, let's get going. Where are we going to start today? On the standard Maker's
We're gonna,
Mark.
this is
We're
kind
going to
of
go
the
back to
order.
Jeff's mini moon.
The order that we're gonna go in because I think it's
Just
the most
bring your
logical.
mics a little
We could start with the cask strength because everything starts as cask strength, but I think that we'll ease you in.
We'll build up to it.
Yeah, we'll build up to that.
Cool.
But I mean, Makers as a brand. Before we kind of talk about the more intricate details of it, it's compared to something like Scotch, it's relatively new in terms of when we were founded. We were founded in 1953. By,
genuine.
Yeah.
Fuck, right. I assumed it was earlier than that.
So it was founded by Bill and Margie Samuels, a husband and wife. The Samuels family do date back further,
right, in
terms of whiskey production, and you can trace them back to I think probably like the late 1700s. The original company that was the Samuels family was a brand called T.W. Samuels, which you can still find to this day, but it's just the name that was purchased. The liquid inside of that bottle isn't what we were producing. I probably should know who bought it, but honestly I can't remember. So that name does still exist, but Bill had, prior to founding Makers, been working in that family bourbon industry, but he just didn't like what they were making. If you go back, to 1900s bourbon that was being produced then, it was not the kind of whiskey that you would expect bourbon to be now in this day and age. It's probably closer to like cowboy,
moonshine,
like
or...
fire water.
Yeah.
Like not something I would want to give you at least. I mean, you might.
To be honest, it might be more up my street. I don't know. Who knows?
But Bill didn't like what they were producing, and Makers was started not to become this brand that it became. It was started or more of like a passion project. He wanted to create a bourbon that he firstly just genuinely enjoyed drinking.
Right.
That was softer, sweeter, smoother on the palate, that was very sort of like front of palate, and more importantly didn't have any type of bitterness. And that didn't really exist at that time. So they purchased Star Hill Farm, which is the property where we still make every single drop of Makers. They bought it for a cool $35,000.
Oh, darn.
I know. It's probably
What's it worth now? Yeah, silly
way more than that, I'll tell you.
Good
but
for
they
them.
bought it for a couple of reasons, because it actually used to be owned by a family called the Burke's family, and they had it set up as a gristmill and distillery. So the foundations of a distillery were already there.
Fantastic.
The second reason that they purchased it is because we have an 1,100-acre spring-fed lake on the property.
Wow.
There is a reason that a lot of bourbon, at least, is made in Kentucky. It's, by law, you can actually make it anywhere in the US, but there's a big misconception that you can only make it in Kentucky.
Right.
About 95% of it is made there for a reason, and that's because Kentucky sits on a limestone shelf.
Right. Water sources are ideal.
Yeah, so funny story, actually, and you'll probably appreciate this. Way back in the day, Scotland and Kentucky were both part of the Pangaean Mountains before everything split. So coincidence that they both make
that's cool.
Some of the world's best whiskey.
Yeah.
That's gas.
I think not. Geographically, they're very, very similar. But this limestone shelf in Kentucky is it filters out a lot of things like iron and so on in the water, and leaves you with a water source that's super rich in magnesium and calcium and things that, like, for bourbon production in particular, are the chef's kiss of it. But there's also really good bourbons coming out of places like New York, and so it doesn't mean that bourbon made anywhere else is inferior by any means. But that's why. So the fact that we have our own lake on the property, every drop of water that is used to make makers comes from that lake. We did over time purchase a backup lake just in case there was any sort of like drought and the water levels drop, so we can actually pump from one lake to the other. I don't know if we've actually done that often, maybe like once.
And everything goes back as well in, doesn't it? Yeah,
so we actually on site also have a wastewater treatment centre, so everything that we're putting back cleaner than we actually got it. So It's pretty cool. It's an 1,100-acre property.
Wow.
So it's fucking massive.
Yeah, that's a ranch.
The distillery is actually only, I think, about 3% of the property. The rest of it's all like working farmland, and we've got heaps of mad shit going on. But
what about the wood as well? Do they take any wood from that property?
So we work with a company called Independent Stave Company. We have done since day one. So they make all of our barrels to specification for us. We do have on site what we affectionately call the mother tree, which is pretty much like one of the finest species of white oak that exists. They've estimated that it's about 300 to 400 years old, which doesn't happen. So we now on site also have the world's largest white oak research forest, which we're doing in conjunction with the University of Kentucky and with Independent Stave Company. So no, we don't harvest oak from our property. It doesn't come from all that far. Independent Stave Company make barrels, but they're also a forestry management company. So we're very conscious of it. The white oak research forest isn't there because we're like, oh shit, there's an oak shortage. It's more for future generations. So we're going to be planting 10,000 seedlings from 500 different oak trees that have come everywhere from, like the border of Canada all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And they're considered sort of like the best species. So things like, I want to say like natural, if you think of anything like disease or, insects that might affect it.
You've got all the different oak geniuses there.
Exactly. So we've mapped the genome of the mother tree.
Cool. Bit of a maker's mark, Noah's Ark, should I say, of trees.
Yeah.
Collecting all the species.
It's really fucking cool when you're there,
cool.
Like when you're standing in it, it doesn't look like all that much. But when you're on the other side of the property and you can see it all down the hill, because right now they're just planting them. And, so it's in terms of stuff to look at, you're not standing in a forest because like it's a natural resource. It obviously takes time to grow. Like corn you can grow in 90 days, the trees take about 90 years. So it's a project that's going to go on way beyond sort of like any of us still sitting here and being alive, which is pretty fucking cool.
Because you guys are like, did I read that you are the world's largest distillery that is the most environmentally conscious or something?
So we're B Corp certified.
Okay.
Which, if you don't know what B Corp certification is, like to pretty much like summarize it, it's a certification that companies can get where it means that you're meeting, very high standards of social and environmental kind of transparency, accountability. So I think a lot of people have this misconception that it's like a sustainability certification that you get and someone comes and is like, looks around and then gives you a stamp and that's it.
We talk about greenwashing a lot, and the B Corp certification is the only thing out there that I'm going to eventually start plugging for once we get a bit bigger. Obviously, we're far too small as a business at the moment, but it is pretty legit. There are some really good companies out there, and they go for it, and you see why they're getting it.
B Corp certified as well, but it's not just obviously it's not just drinks. Pucker Tea, I think as well. B Corp certified. I didn't know that until probably 3 weeks ago when I picked up
they're pretty good.
My favourite restaurant, Hawksmoor.
Hawksmoor. Yeah, we've actually done something with them in the past. Not just because of that, but it's always nice to work with other B Corp companies.
For sure.
But it's not just sort of a sustainability credential, because it also does take into account the kind of social responsibility that a company has. So, for example, we were the first recycling point in Marion County, which I find fucking wild.
What?
Yeah.
And was that recently?
The last few years.
Oh, that's
we
mad.
got B Corp certified in 2022, I want to say it was. But yeah, until we set that up, we've got a few things there, which basically we invite the community to come and use as well. So we've got glass pulverizers on site. So the bottles that are being used at the distillery for things like tastings and so on, we grind them down to a sand. We then use them on the trail walks around the distillery. There's glass artists that we have glasses and stuff at the bar there. They use it. We've got something really sexy, which we call the hot rot, which is our composter.
Okay.
But yeah, so anyone that lives in Marion County can basically come and use the recycling points there, which again, I can't believe there wasn't one prior to that. But again,
it's wild
it's
to
very,
think,
yeah.
Until someone does it, so good for you guys. That's fucking awesome. I like to hear it.
There's a lot of branches on that tree basically. But yeah, they come, and then rather than you just getting the certification, you then have to every year kind of adhere to a point system, so you're continuously growing and doing stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's get some whiskey in the glass.
All right.
Or some bourbon. Sorry.
Still bourbon whiskey.
Bourbon whiskey. I know.
So with this, oh god, knocking the microphone. See, I told you I didn't break something. Such a sexy glug. With this, as I said, this was never kind of
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
started to be this brand that it turned into. Oh god, heavy pouring. As I said, Bill set out with this flavour vision that
Thank you.
he wanted to create something that didn't exist. So in a very sort of on-brand for makers way, he set on fire the only copy of the family's 107-year-old heirloom mash bill recipe to basically start from scratch.
Oh, right. I thought you meant so he burnt it into his memory. It was like, no one else will have this.
This is mine.
I think he burnt it to get rid of any evidence of what they'd been
This was on purpose.
On purpose.
Okay.
I think they had a bit of a ceremony, and the story goes is that he set some curtains on fire with it.
Right.
But him and Margie, they went about finding this new mash bill in quite an ingenious way, which was by baking loads of different loaves of bread. So typically a bourbon mash bill, you're going to have 3 grains, which is corn. Typically a lot of bourbon producers will use rye as that flavoring grain, and then malted barley. But if you think of bread in the sense of, white wheat and sandwich bread.
I thought they used wheat.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay.
So, but this is how we came about.
Sorry, I'm interrupting the story.
No, you're all good.
I didn't realise that you use much malted barley in
No, we do
bourbon.
we do use it. There is arguments there on whether it's just there for fermentation aid, how much flavour it really imparts, and so on.
Right, okay.
I do think that, any grain that you're going to using to, obviously, a degree is going to
bring something.
Is going to, yeah, exactly. But yeah, like if you have white wheated sandwich bread and you eat that, it's going to be like softer, sweeter compared to something like rye bread, which is typically going to be a little bit more like peppery, a bit spicier. And when you distill those grains, the same principle applies. It's obviously not going to taste like bread, but it's gonna still bring through those characteristics. So the new mash bill that he set on with Margie after baking all of these loaves was 70% corn, 16% soft red winter wheat, which replaced that typical rye,
Right.
and the rest malted barley. So with this, what do you like think of this so far on the nose?
The
I
nose.
feel like I'm going to ask you 100 questions just because I know you don't like bourbon.
I'm on the spot here. Right, let's stay positive. So let's see. On the nose, to be honest, I've taken my first sip, and the thing that's overwhelming for me now is it's actually not as corn forward as I was expecting. It's fucking heaps of licorice.
Licorice?
Yeah, heaps of licorice on the palate for me. The nose is kind of still kind of corny.
To be expected.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to say it's like kind of one-dimensional at the moment. Hopefully it'll open up and I'll get something more, but I'm not getting much on the nose.
It's also got kind of like a light perfume note as well.
So with this, with me, I get a lot of stone fruit on this.
Right.
On the nose?
On the palate.
Okay.
But I think because I'm so used to drinking this now, I just have this kind of like flavour log of what I taste, which obviously flavour's subjectional, you know. I think as far as bourbon goes, in my opinion, this is 90 proof as well as 45%.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, crazy strong.
Sorry, is this your kind of your core range? Your
this is
the supermarket kind of.
This is the one that you can
the
get
one you get everywhere and in bars. Yeah. And this is coming out at
45.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So with bourbon, unlike Scotch, 100% of the colour has to come from the barrel. So there's no colourings added, anything like that. Obviously with bourbon we can only use new charred oak containers. Technically you can make a box if you wanted to and put it in there and call it bourbon. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it had to be virgin oak casks and that was it.
So new charred oak, I mean obviously they go into casks, but by law it's containers.
That's interesting.
The aging process as well, you know, it's there's a lot of.
I mean, it sounds like you can kick it into a cask for 5 minutes.
You could.
And it's
you'd have to, yeah, like you.
What's
can
that
spin
all about
around.
there? Yeah.
So there are a few things which
put it in
will
like a
give
centrifuge cask and then spit it out. It's done.
There are a few things that will give you obviously like an indication as to how old bourbon is, which are on the bottles. So the first is when it says straight. If something says straight, it's been aged for at least 2 years. If it says straight and there's no number on it, it means that it's been aged for at least 4. If you see something that says straight whiskey, you could have it for 3 years and 11 months and like 28 days. And by law, like Scotch, you'd have to put the youngest age on it. So anything under 4 would have to have an age statement on it.
That's interesting. Okay, cool.
Makers is a little bit older than that. If you want to be really geeky, I think it's on average around 6 years, 3 months and a day.
On average.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
that's a good average.
We have also bottled a little bit younger. We have also bottled, you know, like 7, 8 years. Again, like warehouses aren't the same. We're the only distillery that still hand rotates all of the barrels. We like to be very purposely and efficient in everything that we do.
How many barrels is that? Fucking loads.
Yeah, loads. And they're not like dunnage warehouses, you know, like bourbon
brick houses. They're ridiculous.
You know, like 6, 7 stories tall. So it's why we don't do single barrel picks, because the fact that they go in the top 3 floors for at least 3 full Kentucky summers, so 3 years. And then the 6th will go to the 1st, the 5th will go to the 2nd. So, you know, we can't do barrel picks because of the fact that the logic is anything you go in and pick is just going to taste like that.
Right.
But that's why we then open the private selection program, and it's sort of like our way of letting people have that moment where they're basically creating their own version of the 46, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Sorry, Charlotte, going back to colourant, did you say colourant can't be added into
100% is from
bourbon?
the barrel.
But is that bourbon all across the board?
Bourbon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that.
But then also when you think about it, Scotch is going into used
For sure.
casks,
Yeah, I know.
we're pulling out that first.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, 100% of color comes from the casks with bourbon.
Do you find much?
You look.
I'm trying to find
He's
stuff.
assessing.
I'm searching. I am searching. I'm doing my best.
So this is
Charlotte.
obviously like the entry.
I think I may have found a little bit of peppercorn on the palate.
Sorry, Jeff, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, do you find much difference in colour at all? So obviously you rotate the barrels and that, but if without any colour and added, do you get a consistency, or is it just by?
We get a consistency because, you know, if you're going to compare it to Scotch, for example, it's what normally always like 8 degrees and rainy in Scotland. So it's obviously why it takes a lot longer and the casks are already used. When it is hot in Kentucky, it is fucking hot. Like, I'm talking like 40 odd like degrees hot, and then in the winter people will get snowed into their houses.
I was going to say it is. I'm
So
trying to get it right. It's definitely quite up and down over there.
yeah,
isn't it?
so also one of the reasons that we rotate our barrels, you know, going back to that original flavour vision that Bill had, we want to create something that is soft, sweet, but again, more importantly, doesn't have any type of bitterness. If you're thinking of these temperature fluctuations and you're just leaving the barrels where they are in the rick houses when they go in, you're going to start pulling out all of these like tannins and flavour compounds that go against what we want as our liquid and as our kind of defining character. So yeah, like in terms of colour and that, this is also one of the reasons that we do rotate the barrels, is for consistency, not only in flavour, but for things like colour and so on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. That's cool. How much liquid are you putting out? What's your output every year? It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's your capacity?
In terms of?
As in, if you were to work 24/7, most distilleries will sort of base their production on like a max capacity, because obviously year on year it'll change sort of a little bit. But,
yeah. Sorry, put you on the spot.
No, but I mean, I am but human. I can only remember so many numbers.
Yeah,
I do have it in my phone, which is
have a look
behind my back.
Yeah, have a look.
I'm
Get it
trying
out.
to see if I've got it on my-
Take some time.
see if
So,
I've got it in
Stevie,
my
how are
notes.
you? While Charlotte has a little look at this, how are you finding this? Talk to me, because you really like your bourbons.
For sure.
I'm struggling here a little bit. I'm not finding on the nose, if I'm honest.
Well,
you
it's
said
gone.
I know, and that's because I've really gone back to that, and I'm trying to. You said perfume on the nose,
A little bit of perfume, yeah.
What kind of
right?
perfume?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask.
I'm not a really a perfume
I find it's-
connoisseur, so
It's quite aftershave-y, like cedar wood kind
So a
of.
bit
Okay,
more
not
of a-
floral.
No, not less the.
yeah, it's not
Bergamot
too
and,
floral. I mean, there's a hint for me there.
Because for me, I'll be honest, the nose very one-dimensional. It's that corn forwardness, and to be honest, for me, it's kind of like it's alcohol.
The comments are going to
vapor.
rip you for this, aren't they?
And this is fine.
Jake's tasting notes about bourbon the same every time.
I know,
Corn
listen,
forward, one
and
direction.
that's fine. And listen, everyone at home, if you have
just trying to get them to rib you here, mate.
don't go on my fucking
So-
word. I know nothing.
Listen, I'm enjoying this. However, when we drink bourbon at our house, it's normally in cocktails.
And this is-
rarely do
I
I,
don't wanna be rude,
drink
I don't
bourbon on
wanna,
its
like-
own. I do give it a chance.
This is a really
All the
good
time.
cocktail bourbon.
That's
Oh,
what I
mate,
want to do with this.
smash old fashions with that all day long.
For sure. And I can
Yeah.
think of a few things that would go well. It's just a bit. I'm sorry. I'm
not
gonna
for
say
you.
It's a bit one-dimensional, and that's what I struggle with bourbons on.
That's
it's just
fine.
a little bit one-dimensional. There's not really much there. I've gone back to that a few times. The nose is very one-dimensional. I think there's some peppercorn on the palate, which I'm
agree on
quite
that.
happy with that. I
Yeah.
like the fact that there's something else a little bit more going on there.
I think bourbon at this sort of level, anyway, this sort of core range, supermarket shelf, people are going to be drinking it mixed. It does its job, and I don't think it's trying. Maybe I'm just speaking for them, but maybe it's not trying
To
to
do
be
more
like
than
a 20-year-old
Remember-
No, of
Scotch.
course
Do you know
not.
what I mean?
Of
But-
course not. Of course.
Remember
but-
at the time
It's
as
okay.
well that this was a whiskey when we produced it that didn't exist.
For
So
sure.
this at the time
It was like a whole new style.
was a very sort of kind of easier drinking, as you say one dimensional, which again, like, completely entitled to your opinion. Some people might see it as just a very like
Easygoing sipper.
easygoing,
Yeah.
and I think that at the time the goal was exactly that.
Yeah.
Was to create something that you could just drink.
And it still does that
And-
so well,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm glad you're here.
I know, me too. God.
I think you're going to get. I think as we go up the
licorice.
ranks,
I really don't like licorice.
yeah.
I don't get licorice at all on that.
There is fucking heaps.
I don't get
Yeah,
heaps.
I agree.
get
I've
licorice?
never had licorice before, but as soon as you said that, I'm like, yeah, this is licorice. I find it like...
Wait a minute, you've never had licorice before?
No, as in never had licorice.
Oh, okay,
flavour
I was
from
going to
Maker's
say.
Mark.
Yeah, no.
I've
but,
dabbled in licorice once or twice. And
I get
Licorice.
a lot of fruit on this.
What sort of fruit?
Like peach, pear, apricot, like stone fruit.
Wow.
I get like a very overripened pear, you know, when it's gone past.
No, I'm missing all of that.
You are
that
missing it,
bothers
mate.
me that I've missed that in there.
Do you want some more?
No, I want to save myself. I want to try and find out, but like, not even a hint, nothing. That's really disappointing. I don't know what it is about that I'm missing all
It's
of that.
okay,
sort
mate.
of
It's okay. I think as we go
We've
down
got,
up the
we've
ranks,
got more, yeah. And
Yeah.
again, like bear in mind, this is as you said, the entry level and the introduction to the brand.
Yeah.
I will say, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this, but
Do say
this
it.
is
It's Uncut Unfiltered.
this is probably the one that I drink the least out of the range.
I mean, in fairness, you've got access to all of it, so that's not surprising.
I
You
have
get some
access
seriously
to
good
some
juice.
delicious liquids.
to be
Yeah,
fair,
yeah,
you do
yeah.
have a suitcase full of bourbon, so.
I mean, I didn't want to put it all in a bag. It's safer.
No, it
It's
looks
safer
cool.
in
It
that.
looks cool.
Yeah, so again, very, very easy sipper.
Yeah.
This, and you will see in a lot of places typically that it is put into cocktails. It is really good with, even really basic mixes like Makers and apple juice, or like Makers and ginger. I mean, bourbon and ginger is a classic combo. That's
The best.
Yeah, I mean, it's just always stood the test of time.
You were doing that the other week, wasn't it?
I've been doing it every day for weeks.
Steve's got a problem.
We have been buying cases of
I've
that
been
ginger
saying-
ale. Like, it's just nuts.
Sherry cask.
Yeah.
Scotch with some ginger.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I was trying to convince Stevie of there recently.
Yeah, I had
He's like, no, I'm
I
really
had
enjoying the bourbon
a-
and the ginger, so fair play.
I had a bourbon that was finished in PX casks, which is really good, which you might like.
So is that legal to call it bourbon? No.
I mean, you can't, if it's not being matured.
Oh, drop me out. What, so you mature
I
it for
don't wanna
5
be a
minutes in a
part of-
cask and
I
then
don't
you
wanna
finish
be-
it for 2 years in PX?
Oh god, I'm scared to give you the next one now. So
Okay, what's the next one? French
So,
Oak, 46.
Maker's 46.
Okay.
I have a prop.
Talk
So-
to us. I love
All
a
right,
good
so
prop.
the 46. Bill and Margie obviously being the founders. No one can work forever, right? They retire at one point, and
Right.
the company goes to their son, also called Bill Jr. It makes my job really easy because everyone's either called Bill or Rob.
Tidy, okay.
Bill Jr. and like he's a really fun guy. Like I've been to his house for cocktails. He's like one of the most interesting people I've ever met. He was a rocket scientist. He was a lawyer. He's done like all this wild shit, and then he went to work for his dad at Makers.
Okay.
So when he was coming close to retirement, well, when he took over, I should say, firstly, he was given one rule by his dad, which was just don't fuck up the whiskey.
That's a good rule.
So,
That's the
yeah.
sort of thing I'd say.
It was
That's a
don't-
life
Like so
rule.
nondescript and vague.
It was
Don't fuck it up, all right?
Yeah, I know it gets more nondescript and vague. So when he started coming to, around the time of his retirement, the story was that he had a dream that he had died. And
Oh, shit,
on
right,
his
okay.
gravestone, it just said, Bill Jr., he didn't fuck it up.
Right.
So he went to Independent Stave Company with like, I need to leave my mark somehow.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Fair enough. And Independent Stave Company are super interesting. So obviously, as I said, they make barrels, and you can think of them as almost like a kitchen. So I mean that in the respect of anything you could do to like a piece of meat, they can do to a piece of wood. So you can like slice it, dice it, sear it, fry it, like put it in an oven, whatever. And Bill went to Independent Stave Company, and he was like, I want to create, and this is what the actual brief was, I want to create something that is yummy and that is Makers on steroids.
Okay.
And it's like, okay. So they came up with the idea of wood finishing. I ask this when I do like training.
Took 46 times to get right?
Pretty much, yeah. So, I mean, I get all sorts of answers when I ask people that. They're
I only think of that because of WD-40.
You don't want a
so.
bourbon that's 46 years old.
God.
Annoyingly, well, the other one I get a lot is 46%, and annoyingly, the 46 is 47%. But they came up with the idea of wood finishing, and the stave profile that they kept coming back to was stave profile 46, which is a seared French oak stave, which is what this is. Obviously a bit shorter than what we actually use, but I need to be able to put it in a bag, so I've got a mini version. And what we did with this is, I mean, with Scotch, obviously you think of finishing, you're putting things into a rum cask or a sherry cask or whatever.
Go on.
Cracking cheers.
We did it slightly differently because, again, you know, we like to be different. But we came up with the idea of wood finishing in taking a fully aged barrel of Makers, which again is give or take around 6 years-ish, right?
Okay.
What we then do is we actually take the head off of that barrel. We empty the barrel, we hold it. We take the head off the barrel and we put 10 of these seared French oak staves inside the barrel.
Okay.
What we then do is we seal it back up, refill it, and then we place it into a limestone cellar that we have for 9 weeks. The limestone cellar that we've got on the property, it kind of acts as like a walk-in fridge. So we dynamite the side of a hill on the property.
So American.
So I was just about to say that, dude. This is such an American fucking story.
How can you
Just
not
fucking blow it up, my guy. Let's go.
The reason being, though, is that this is basically exposed the limestone part of the limestone shelf that Kentucky sits on. So, again, you know, legally you can't age bourbon in what is deemed to be a cave, and that goes back to like bootlegging days. But if you put a door on it and call it a cellar, it's fine.
Right.
Obviously, like
loopholes.
There is, well, you know, it is an LEED certified building, and you know, it's not just quite as rogue as I'm making it sound. But you know, kind of going back to that temperature in Kentucky, it doesn't matter if it's 38, 39 degrees outside. It's always about 8 degrees in that cellar.
Cool.
So by putting it into there, it's not controlled by us, but it's a much more temperature controlled environment. So we're pulling out like nuances of the flavor that you get from the French oak. What do you reckon?
Keep talking.
No, go on.
Yeah, I've only sniffed it thus far. I'm only nosing it.
There's a lot more kind of spice on the palate than
so
the range. Yeah, that's from that.
Yeah, that's all I'm getting on the nose. To be honest, is very unbalanced alcohol and wood spice.
I'm getting like.
I'm really sorry, Charlotte. I'm learning a lot and I'm finding you fascinating because the people want to hear it. And they'll probably enjoy me not enjoying myself that much. It's fascinating.
He's wrong.
Straight up, I probably am wrong for 99% of you at home. I am struggling with this.
A lot of people prefer this to.
What's interesting, actually, the texture is just a tad thinner than the range for me at the moment. Do you find that?
I actually get the opposite.
I think it's a bit more viscous.
Slightly.
Yeah.
What percentage is this?
This is 47.
Okay, give or take the same. Really interesting. I think that the alcohol is just
Well, remember that we're
don't know what it is. It's just off. It's not integrated on the nose. I haven't tried it yet. I'm sorry. I'm not making any friends here, am I?
Yes, I'm finding loads of lemon and aniseed on the nose.
On the nose, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
If you think you were going to make us Mark, mate, to the distillery, you're not now.
You'll be invited. I'll be invited.
Jeff's coming.
Sounds good.
So a lot of really typical tasting notes that we get with this, they range from like clove to anise to coffee, dark chocolate. A lot of people find this a lot more palatable. You just stay over there. A lot of people find it a lot more palatable.
I'm glad people are getting all of that. The palate, I'm kind of getting the aniseedy thing.
Yeah, there is a lot more of those spices here.
Coffee, though.
Yeah,
really
but obviously there would be, right?
I get coffee on this.
Really?
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. I find that really fast. No, it's just so interesting that palates can be so vastly different. I don't get anything even close to that.
Yeah,
I
that
get the
bitterness.
aniseed, though. I definitely get the aniseed. There are, now that I'm sitting with these, there is more than just that corn forwardness.
It is fascinating, mate, because you're pretty good at tasting whiskies, and you know, obviously we drink a lot of whiskey. But
And I'm being open-minded here. I'm not being
I know you
arsehole
are.
just for the sake of it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
I
of
wouldn't
course.
invite you
Of
here,
course
Sean.
not.
This is a weapon.
Yeah, I know, right?
it's actually
Yeah.
it's actually a spanking paddle, mate. So you know,
Careful. Yeah, absolutely, right.
but you can't draw out those notes from here yet. You know, you're so sort of well versed of things. That's what I find fascinating. You know.
I think he's got a mental block.
Yeah, I think it is. I think something happened. I think
would
you got
like
some
to
sort
think
of
I don't.
some bourbon trauma in your childhood.
Bottle fell off a shelf, clonked you.
No. I
I was
never
actually
had
a huge bourbon fan until that happened.
Yeah.
I never had. This is the thing. Everyone has that bottle of something that they maybe drank a bit too much of as a kid and then could never return to. For me, it was Malibu, and to be honest, I
I love a cheeky Malibu.
I don't. That's the thing. I don't. I was put off it for like a couple of years. I acted like a fool, and did drink far too much of it in one go. But yeah, never really got into bourbon. So I don't. You're right. I don't understand what I'm missing with it. And it frustrates me, to be honest. Especially when I sit around and listen. You're saying lemon peel. I'm really trying to find that now.
There's a real weird one. Have you ever seen those jars of marshmallow fluff?
Yeah.
Imagine that, but spicy. Like, that's a real weird thing.
That's a bit out there, yeah.
That's
I can't
a
imagine that.
Yeah. Like cotton candy, kind of almost gritty texture-y.
It's a lot
Rolled in the
sweeter
dirt.
Yeah.
than- For me, that's
Dirty
a
cotton
lot
candy.
sweeter than the original one. Like, I just find it a little bit more complex. This is a banging cocktail whiskey.
Oh.
Like, if I'm drinking anything that's sort of like stirred brown and down type of cocktail, this is a really, really good one. He's still not convinced. It's a really good one.
I'm listening. I'm
It's a
thinking.
little
I'm not being. No.
So, did he pass the test? Did he fuck it up in his father's eyes?
No, this is probably
one of their best-selling
They're no
now.
longer around. Bill now is in his 80s.
Right, right.
But this is
Sorry, did his
Maker's 46
father
as
get
far
to
as I'm
see
aware,
this?
is like one of their better selling expressions.
I actually
right?
don't know when Bill Senior passed away.
Okay.
I feel like I should know the answer to
Okay,
that, but
that's all right.
I'm not sure.
It's all right.
But yeah, no, this was sort of his, as I said, mark on the brand and his legacy before Rob, who's his son, who's now our managing director, took over.
Right. Okay.
So Rob is responsible for a lot of like kind of like the B Corp and that sort of real push for being stewards of the land, and he was the one that kind of spoke the distillery into creating a cask strength. Bartenders wanted it, they got it. Really good again for you'll probably like it as we go into the cask strength and things that have a little bit more punch. I'm hoping.
So am I. It's not that these are bad. They're just not good to
Just
me.
hand
To
me-
me.
Yeah.
To me.
Just
to
hand
me.
me the shovel, mate.
I know.
Stop
I'm
it.
sorry.
Stop it.
Do you know
I want to be
what,
honest,
though?
though.
Like-
It's important to be honest. Do you know what I mean?
No, for sure.
Not everyone
No,
can
I
like
agree.
everything.
Not like bourbon's not for everyone, and it's the same way that like Scotch isn't for everyone, or peated Scotch isn't for everyone, and there's no right or wrong when it comes to what you like and what you like drinking. If you want to
Thank
drink,
you.
There's almost like this flat Lucasade note going on as well.
Who's being rude now?
I love flat Lucasade. What are you talking about?
Flat Lucasade all the time.
Shake those bubbles out, mate.
Fair enough.
I kind of see what you mean on the.
No, it's got that kind of like that kind
It's
of
that
bitter
sort of-
orange and
Yeah.
those spices and that sort of thing.
Like orange.
Did you get that, Jake? Flat Lucasade.
No, not really.
But yeah, no, yeah.
You said it was
No
thin
one's ever said that.
or
before.
thinner.
It does.
I
does.
don't agree with that. And for me, it's kind of like to begin with a little bit more full, but then it kind of gets a bit more astringent.
Right.
Not a tasting note, I know, but from a texture point of view, there's something going on there, which I thought I'd
Sure.
add to the party. I'm trying to bring something here, Charlotte. I'm sorry.
This
I'm
is
doing
cool.
my best.
I like this, and as you say, I bet it works so well in old fashioned and other
Again,
cocktails.
Manhattan.
cocktail,
Yeah.
I can see this working really nicely. 100%.
I sip this as it is quite a lot.
Daily
if I
sipper.
go
Yeah.
out. Well, if I had more bottles of it, it would be the Cellar Aged. But alas, The allocation was limited, so.
And these come out in batches, do they? The 46.
The 46 is just part of the
kind of core
SKU range. Until we had the cellar. The cellar was made originally for the 46 because at one point we could only make it in winter because of the sort of temperatures needed for it. So that's where the cellar was kind of born. But we now obviously use it for other things, like the name gives it away here, the Cellar Aged, for example. I'll give you one guess as to what we do with that. So it has its purposes, but these are part of the core. The cask strength as well, you can buy that in like the whiskey shop and things. So these three are pretty accessible. The cask strength we do in batches. I mean, you'll see them there, So generally you'll find that they always sit around sort of like 108 to maybe 113, give or take, 14. That's 110 this one. So it really just depends on what's being put out.
So £110?
Proof.
Oh, proof, sorry.
Sorry.
And retail on the 46?
The 46, I think you can get, depending where you go, maybe between like 40 to 50.
Depending if it's on sale,
depends where it is.
All right.
Like 47. Or, probably the same kind of price point that's written on the bottle. The cask strength is a little bit more, I think, in the whiskey shop, and I don't work for the whiskey shop, so don't quote me on this. I think they sell it for maybe around like 70.
Everything's expensive there anyway, so fucking not a fan.
I know, you didn't have to say that, dude.
I mean,
your look said it all.
I did. I want them to know.
Communal nod there.
I want them to know.
All right, cool.
Anyway.
You guys are enjoying that, though. Are you more or less than the first? Don't
Uh,
want to ruin the wrap up, but just
no,
like,
I'll
where
save
are you?
that. I'll save
you want
that.
to save it?
Yeah.
All right.
Surprise, yeah.
Gatekeeping all of the fucking thoughts. Where are you at, Jack?
I think obviously I've got memories connected to the first one, so I'm going to be biased towards it. I think today I'm preferring the 46, but I know I've got both that. I've got the 46 when it was that shape bottle.
Yeah,
I've got a couple
we
of
changed
them.
that. Not long ago, actually. That change has sort of happened over the last kind of year or so.
I assume it was the bottle changed when it was coming in, so I managed to grab 2 bottles. I think it was £36 managed to get it, so I was happy with that. And normally the standard beats it for me, but today the 46 is. Whether it's because I've gone from one to other, and then that's kind of been a nice step up instead of being straight a slap of 46.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, yeah, both big fans of both of them.
Good.
I'm having a good time.
I'm glad someone's enjoying themselves. Now, I'm learning a lot, and that's what I like about this sort of
That's what's important.
And this is it. I feel like I'm coming at things with a much more open mind than I would do normally. And I'm excited because you guys are saying a lot of tasting notes here, and I feel like they've got to show their fucking faces to me at some point.
So I mean, the cask strength, hopefully you'll get some of the...
Some more.
Some things.
Okay.
So obviously this is... I want to say out of what we have, the closest thing that you'll have to drinking it out of the barrel. Slightly different, but
Question, actually, sorry. This is cask strength. Would most of the liquid be coming out at around this strength? Or does some of it come out stronger or weaker and you water it down for the core range stuff?
Well, it depends on the batches. So this is why we have the fluctuations. You know, the Cellar Aged, for example, is a cask strength. That's 115.7 proof. So 58,
60.
Not used to talking.
And so would there be much?
58.7.
And this is the thing I appreciate with the variation in the weather and humidity and
we'll
all the rest
filter
of it.
them to take out just like the char and stuff. But as far as I know, we're
But
not.
would you get any that come up significantly above 60? You know, or most of them bottled anywhere between kind of 54.
From what I
55
know,
and
I think
60%.
a lot of them generally will come out at at sort of that 115. But I don't know of any that we've done that have come out like significantly higher than that.
Where's the casking strength? Do you know? So like you fill it into cask. What's
110? We fill the barrel at.
Okay.
You can do up to 125 with bourbon, but we keep ours a little bit lower, which costs us a bit more money. But our
so it's
focus
basically
is really
kind of
on
give or take
flavour.
the same as Scotch. You're kind of filling between 60 and 62 and a half, 63, 63 and a half.
There's a lot of similarities with Scotch, which is why you should like bourbon. No, yeah, our barrel entry proof is a little bit lower than kind of the industry standard.
Yeah.
It used to be 110, like way back in the day, and then they changed it to 125. So a lot of distilleries started putting it in at 125 because it's more cost effective for them to do that. But again, kind of going back to the fact that we're purposely inefficient in everything that we do, whether that's, you know, the barrel rotation, the fact that we still dip every single bottle by hand, even the miniatures are dipped by hand. Could we find a better way of doing a lot of this stuff? Probably. Like, could we put it in the barrel higher? Yeah, but we don't want to change who we are, and we don't want to change anything about what people love about or don't love about makers. You know, we're always going to be a very sort of like flavor first brand, regardless of what that means from, you know, like a wider company perspective or like a corporate perspective. We're always going to kind of push against the grain and keep doing what we've been doing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the wax? Do you know?
It's changed a lot over the years because obviously from a sustainability perspective, I believe that it's like a polymer wax, but I can't remember exactly what is. I did ask the question when I was there because I know that it's something that we do get asked from a sustainability.
Yeah, I was just going to say because there's a lot of wax.
When there's a really cool bar actually if you do make it over to Kentucky in Louisville called Neat, and they are a vintage spirits, vintage bourbon bar, and they've got a shelf of makers that's I think the earliest bottle they have is from 1964 going through to obviously what
with
they
liquid
have
still
now.
inside.
Yeah, you can order it and drink it.
I'll be right.
And it's really it's such a great bar, and the people that work there are ace, and just what they have in terms of like on the shelf that you can just purchase and drink, and it's not break the bank expensive either.
Right. Yeah,
it's really interesting to see side by side because you can physically see how the wax has changed aesthetically. It's always been cool. Like Maker's Red, but it is what it is. You know, we've got it trademarked, and it's always people don't even necessarily have to know what it is. If you go the bottle with the red wax, they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It is quite a standout. It's a very
iconic. That's because of Margie. Like everything that people know and understand to be makers is because of her. A lot of people say that she's the reason people buy their first bottle of Makers, and Bill's the reason you buy your second because of what's inside. So
cool.
The bottle shape was designed by her. She used to collect 19th century cognac bottles. So, I mean, even now, if you think of like, you know, Courvoisier, Hennessy, anything, it's the sort of stumpier
very
neck. So the idea for the bottle shape came from that. She designed the label by hand as well. And the logo that you see on all of them, the SIV, that was, the name as well was her. So the cognac bottles, she also collected Old English pewter. And back then, pewtersmiths would put what was known as the maker's mark on their best work. So, you know, like when you watch like Antiques Roadshow or something, and they're like, oh, this was made by John Smith in 14 or whatever. And they're like, how do you know that? And they're like, because there's a dot in the corner. And you're like, oh, yeah, of course. Like, of course.
Wow, sounds like what a gal.
She wanted to make their own mark of the maker, which was the SIV. So the S is for Star Hill Farm, which is where we make everything. The circle and the star as well. The star, although it's for Star Hill Farm, they used to have a cattle breed called Circle and Star, like way back. And the IV was because they thought at the time Bill was a 4th generation distiller. It turns out he was 6th, but they just left it like that. And the wax as well was from the cognac bottles. So, you know, back then, if you've got 19th century cognac bottles and they're dipped in wax, that's a mark of like, quality and luxury. So the first one they ever dipped, which is in Bill's house actually, she did in their chicken fryer at home.
Nice.
Yeah. I've seen the chicken fryer.
You know you're in the south of fucking America there. Fried chicken.
So
pulling out the bottle, there's still feathers on it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I love that. This is the thing. You've got some great stories. I'm genuinely interested in the brand. Let's move on to the next.
The more I tell you, hopefully, like there'll be a moment where you fall in love with it.
I'm going to keep the 46 in my glass to the end.
Here. Oh, you got that one. I've realised that I've brought a bottle that's signed by Rob. Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
So, cask strength.
Want me to go?
Please, mate. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is obviously a good one to try before the cellar age, because the cellar age is also cask strength, and I've also got
Thank you, mate.
a warehouse sample liquid to try with the cellar aged as well when we get there, just to have as like side by side. So obviously a little bit punchier. Go on. You're going first on all of
Don't
this.
look at me.
Get out.
Go on the nose.
I feel such pressure. I don't want to tell you.
Well, there we go. The spirit shines through so much more at that strength.
I like cask strength things, and I think because of what Makers is in terms of the mash bill and stuff like that. I mean, I've tried things at this sort of proof from other brands, whether it be Scotch or bourbon or anything, and sometimes they're a bit harder to drink as they are. Whereas with me, with Makers, and I think that you guys will see this when we get to the cellar aged as well, they're just still so palatable regardless of the strength. In my opinion.
For sure. And I've never had a cask strength bourbon before. We have. Okay, yeah. Drew's.
Yeah, and I've given you one other at a tasting as well.
Oh,
that I
right.
can think of, like off the top of the dome.
But yeah, maybe it is that, you know, we drink whiskey, we work in whiskey, you're used to drinking high strengths quite a lot. You know, the core range and the 46 does work well, but this is just a whole step up for me. This is something now I could...
Because we're whiskey drinkers.
Yeah, this is where I can sip, you know, without sticking it in a cocktail. Equally, I bet it works so fucking well in a cocktail, this strength as well. I like that. Jeff, what do you think?
It's super bushy, as in weird explanation there, like blackberries, nettles, kind of countryside. Yeah, so bushy as in a hedgerow.
Trying to paint a picture there, but
tastes like twigs.
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't get invited to many things.
And look how thick it is. Look at it falling down the glass. It's like treacle.
It's so pretty.
Jake,
The concentration.
come on. You must be getting something from this now. Must be working its way.
I'm not really enjoying it. I'm really sorry. I feel fucking bad, to be honest now.
No, but it's good to be honest.
I'm...
Sorry, it's 3 versus 1.
And
I
not
know, this is the thing. I'm losing out.
And
When
not
you
everyone
said
like-
stone fruits earlier, I was like, why the fuck can I not find that? But that's what I would love to get, an element of something else here. But for me, it's always kind of corn forward, kind of one-dimensional and licoricey. I've got a bit more aniseed in the last one and then this one. Maybe a little bit, you said orange bitters, maybe a bit of like orange skin or something here, like a bit of peel.
Zesty.
Yeah, a little bit. Almost like, you know, when you like express an orange peel on the rim of a glass for a cocktail.
Yeah.
Like an element of that.
Yeah.
It's got this nice kind of like almost kind of cough sweet-esque finish
No, what,
on
really?
it. Very right at the end there. And I think it's
Like
coming
a
from
lozenger.
that like an orange lozenge, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Is
that would
this-
feed back into what you were saying about flat Lucozade.
Yeah, well, exactly. And stepping it a bit up, that alcohol's going to be a bit high, which is where you're going to get that kind of like lozenge-esque kind of...
Is the mash bill the same?
Everything. The only thing that we make at Makers is Makers. Everything starts as that.
Okay. And remind me, 76% corn.
70% corn,
Sorry, apologies.
16% soft red winter wheat, and 14% malted barley.
No rye at all.
Nope. So we replace
This
the rye.
tastes more rye-esque, that's what I was going to say. To me, it tastes like there's
A little bit more peppery.
something else. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that like kind of spice, that kind of almost minty at the end, a bit toothpastey.
Okay. Don't get that, but yeah, sure. Cool.
I've had that before in
interesting.
master classes.
Kinda like
People have said
eucalyptus-y.
that kind of like fresh
Menthol.
finish. But again, this is why I love these kinds of things, because flavor's subjective, and you know,
This
like
is it,
what
yeah.
I smell and taste is not going to be what.
So you're saying most people don't say this is like a hedge? Is that not a common one?
I will say that it's
bushy.
It's definitely, that's what I'm going to use in my next training, actually.
Yeah.
This is bushy whiskey.
So, what sort of age is this roughly? I don't know if you
They're
mentioned.
all the
Do you know?
same.
Oh, they are all the same, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the only differences that we have is that obviously this is just proofed.
Okay.
This has an extra 9 weeks in the cellar with the French oak staves, and then this is where the age changes.
Okay.
This is the newest release that we've had come out of makers. We just didn't like we had a lot of like diehard makers fans for a really long time ask us to make an older bourbon, and it's not because we didn't want to. Remember that for like 50 odd years all we made was this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's again not because we didn't want to make an older makers, but we hadn't found the makers way of making an older bourbon
Until you blew up a.
Well, remember that
Cliff.
it was not a cliff, it's a hill. But remember that was made for the 46, right? So
Right.
again, it's just, and we have an innovation lab on site, and we've played around with, we have the wood finishing series, like the Distillery exclusives, and we work really closely with independent stave company. So it's not that we don't make other things, albeit things that you can't get here. But the innovation lab are constantly kind of looking into like flavor and how that works with what we do as a brand, and how we can create these other expressions with like while still staying very true to who we are, and kind of feeding back to the DNA of who we are, and Bill's flavor vision again of just being softer, sweeter, but like more importantly, no bitterness.
Right.
When you look at doing bourbon with an older age statement, typically what you might find sometimes is that bitterness might start to come through from the oak and from however long it's been in whatever warehouse it's been in. And we just didn't want that. So the Cellar Aged was the newest addition to the range. Last year, this is an annual release that we're doing. So, obviously you've got 2023 written on that bottle. That was released last October in the UK. We only had about 900 bottles of it. And that was for like on trade, retail, like everything. And I think when you start looking at premium bourbon, this can retail anywhere from, I think Berry Brothers have it at 185. Some people have it a little bit lower than that. When you start looking at older bourbon and more premium bourbon, and again, this is just my opinion, but there's sort of this jump from things like the 46, or even let's say the Cask strength, which you can buy bottles of for 70, 80 quid, and then all of a sudden it's like Pappy, and you're like, well, fuck, that's like $400. I don't.
There it goes.
Just leave it on the floor.
For context, I said I'd break something. But yeah, like there's this huge jump, right? And there's a lot of hype. And I'm not shitting on Pappy. Like, it's nice. Can I afford to drink it? No.
Bit overhyped, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's exactly right. And it's there just because it's there and it's older.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, not shitting on Pappy, but that first year that we had this, when we're kind of looking at numbers and what we think is right, you're kind of torn in this, like, well, it's either going to go one way or it's going to go the other. People are going to lap it up, or it's just going to be another one of these things that might just sit on a shelf. You don't know. The response to this was fucking wild. Like, wild. We gave Berry Brothers some allocation, and they pre-sold that entire allocation in about 40 minutes. Before the bottle was even in the country.
The Cask strength?
No, the Cellar
Oh,
Aged.
the Cellar Aged. Okay, yep.
Christ.
Yeah,
Blimey.
so the response to this was like overwhelming. Like we had no idea how well received it would be. And again, I think it's just kind of going back into the whole, there's not something that really hits that mark, in my opinion, with other brands quite yet on the market when it comes to bourbon. You know, Scotch, you've got like everything under the sun, you know.
Yeah.
So this is where we've sort of like steered away a little bit from, I think, what people recognize as makers, because this is our step into like, you know, that kind of premium portfolio. Whereas before, you know, you can buy this in Sainsbury's. You know, you're definitely not going to find that on a shelf in Sainsbury's.
For sure.
This is the oldest makers that we've ever done. So every year when we release this, the proof will be different, the blends will be different. So what happens with this is it starts its life like everything else that we make. When we have what we deem as our fully aged makers, we were like, well, what happens if we just put the barrels into the cellar and just let them carry on? So this is 87% 12-year-old and 13% 11-year-old. But after that initial 6-ish years maturing normally, it spends the other 6-ish years or whatever it'll be. You know, obviously this year the blend's going to be different, the ages are different, the proof is different. In essentially like a Scottish environment because we put it into the cellar.
In the same, you keep it in the same barrels though, yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Just roll the barrels. Okay, yeah. Okay.
In my opinion, this is the most delicious thing that we've made.
Well, let's get it in the glass then,
minus
Charlotte.
One wood finishing series that I tried. Which was, I wish that I had there's something else that we've.
Oh yeah, man.
There's something else, but like what I'm going to give to you guys though as well is I'm going to actually give you this, but I'm going to give you something to try first, which is a warehouse sample I've brought of what happens when you leave makers in the rick houses
for too long.
For this amount of time.
Right. Okay.
To kind of
gonna need a few glasses then, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm on it.
So sorry, just going back to the cask strength.
Yes.
Because I found something that I kind of like.
Oh, we've got a winner.
Everybody.
It's a moment of silence.
It's for a brief fucking second in the mid palate, okay? But if you hold this on your palate for a while, really rinse it around
for
your
30
mouth.
minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Now that I've had it in my glass for the last fucking hour. Yeah, no. Rinsing, the nose, I'm sorry to say, is still very one-dimensional. It's not giving me anything much at all. But leaving it open up in the glass, rinsing it over your palate, in the mid palate, there is a brief moment of peppermint. And so you were saying toothpaste. I wouldn't say it's quite that for me, but it's peppermint. It is quite a kind of, fresh peppermint. And then it kind of, it's kind of hidden.
Sure.
Right.
It's not really prominent. It's kind of hidden in the in the mid palate, at the back of it all. But it is there.
There we go.
There is something different there. And I'm really fucking happy that I found that. Do you know what I mean?
I'm happy for you, mate, actually.
I'm just sorry.
I think
it's quite a moment.
Doing my best.
Quite an emotional moment, actually.
Right.
So is this the
Maker's Mark can't
It
strength.
could be the breakthrough.
This is,
Sorry,
who knows?
That's Cellar Aged.
This is the Cellar Aged.
This is
the special little.
Is
Okay.
something that we won't ever bottle and produce.
Oh, cracking cheers.
Brick house. Sorry, anyway.
I don't know.
You definitely do.
All right, so
Okay.
the first one.
So what do you want me to sup first?
Start with the Rick House sample.
Okay.
The syrup.
So
The syrup, yeah.
this is literally something that we don't make, we don't produce. I've got it purely for like comparative purposes. This is exactly why we never made an older bourbon, because
Left in the warehouse.
in theory is just that left for longer.
Yeah.
But what you'll taste with this, you would not know it. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not terrible, right? You could give it to someone and they'd be like, well, yeah, that's bourbon. Like, you could probably put it in an old fashioned and be like,
juice.
yeah.
Wow, that's
so
hot.
Dyson,
Yeah.
it just sucks out all the moisture in your mouth.
That's
Yeah.
really hot.
Yeah.
Quite like it.
So that is just older
Right.
that.
Okay. And now
I don't.
in the cave whiskey.
What? You got a flavour. So I think that you might enjoy this, I hope. Because the first time I tried it, gave me sort of like cask strength scotchy vibes, but the finish on it, if you were to add like a drop of water into that, it opens up in a way where it has this almost kind of florality to it, which I find you get sometimes a lot with like cognac finishes or cognac in general.
Sorry, I had to rinse my mouth out because it had been assaulted.
Just waking it up.
Yeah, making sure we're still paying attention, mate.
Right, so this is the
Cellar
what I
Aged
like to call the
23.
cave aged, yeah. The
Cellar,
cave with the
not
door.
cave.
The cellar aged, right. Okay. Yeah, it's not as offensive as the first, but it's still
cask strength.
you can still see it's been in there.
Sorry, what is the cask strength on this one?
This is 115.
So was that 55?
It's 57.85.
Okay.
I would say though, if you're not opposed to it, add a drop of water into this, because that finish when you do is...
I bet it softens it right up.
Honestly, this is one of my favourite things.
Such a buttery whiskey.
It's super viscous.
It's got this kind of like burnt caramel.
Yeah.
You know, like at the bottom of the pan.
I get like burnt brown sugar.
I don't trust myself pouring this into here. Jake, you're very quiet over there, mate.
Put some water in it.
I have. Yeah.
He's still not.
I've done it. Oh. I didn't say that.
He still hates it.
No. Buttery, yeah. Burnt sugar, yeah. It's just not like, it's not they're not prominent flavors. I feel like the flavors that I'm getting, like the peppermint that I mentioned in the last one, the buttery texture, I would agree with 100%, but there's not a buttery flavor to it for me. And I love a really buttery whiskey where you get kind of both. You get that.
It's not
the
creamy
fatty mouthfeel, but you also get the fatty sort of buttery flavor.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I love that in a whiskey. Not getting that. The burnt sugar I get as a flavor.
I get a lot of like floral undertones on the finish.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go looking for them. I'm gonna go fishing.
You nearly killed our guest.
Yeah, just let me absolutely snort like that.
Sorry.
Right, let's try with a bit of water in there. It takes water very well.
Yeah.
And it could even take a little bit more. It softens it right up, but you still that
I mean,
kind
the
of
best way to drink
wood
this
spice.
is with a block ice.
Right, just slowly let it.
So you can't taste it. Sorry, I had to say that. You said ice, I had to go.
Charlotte, you're welcome at any time.
Am I?
Yeah, honestly.
Sorry, I'm being such a
Do
fan.
you want to grab your plank?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. You
The
got
universe was throwing it on the floor for me.
With water, I'm finding it very chalky, like mineralic. Very
Say it again, Jeff. Sorry.
chalky, slaty. Like
Okay.
I'm not going to try to say mineralic.
Minerally.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, you still got the dust from the dynamite, haven't you? In there.
It's got a real fuse to it. Yeah.
TNT for
Yeah,
some reason.
TNT.
Yeah. Gunpowder.
Yeah, the wood spice still comes through so much, though, even with that water. And it's not unpleasant.
But is it bitter?
I wouldn't say it's bitter. It's more spicy.
We've then done our job.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't get the florality of it.
I get it on like the finish, on
Yeah.
like breath.
Okay. It is lighter at the back end.
I think, and like this is just, you know, again, sort of how I taste it, but that sort of like floral finish that I get, I think comes back round to the sort of like stone fruit flavors that I can pick out
Right.
in it. I think that it's just how they develop in that cellar setting. they just change and they become a little bit more complex. And I think that's where that flavor comes from and that finish comes from. But that's just what I taste.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Stevie?
Yeah, again, it's a step up. A very long wood finish here.
Yeah, the finish is there. It lasts. Yeah. I'm trying here, guys. Come on. The others are short.
You're doing very well.
The others
of
are
course,
quite
of course.
short. Even that last cask strength one, it does kind of, dissipate.
Where are we at price point, Charlotte, on these?
£185.
Sorry, okay,
150 to, I think, Berry Brothers. I was there on Saturday and I think they've got it for about 185.
155 quid, 150, 185, whatever.
That's up there. That's up there. For essentially, what, did you say 7-8 years? No.
Cellar Aged, mate. They had to fucking blow up a whole fucking cliff side to make
that's 87% 12-year-old.
Oh, it's 12 and 11.
13% 11.
That's right, you did say, 11 and 12. Okay.
I mean, it's heaps better than this one.
Oh, yeah, no, that we should never put that
So that's
in the
good,
bottle.
right?
That's a positive, mate, yeah.
I can taste that.
When I do like cellar aged tastings or like dinners and stuff, the kind of lineup that I do is cask strength, the warehouse sample, and then cellar aged, and kind of guide them through that.
Okay.
Tell me, Charlotte, what do you pair food-wise with these then yourself, or in your tastings?
I'm gonna throw
Beef burgers and fries.
I'm gonna throw out a statement that might be controversial, but I just don't think that you should be pairing bourbon with food because I feel like it takes away from the flavour of.
What about
the
whiskey and
bourbon.
food?
Again, like I get it, I do, and like
you don't like pairing whiskey?
I just like I'll eat and drink, but
well, you have to.
But you know,
I'm glad you take care of yourself. Yeah.
No, I don't know. Like, I understand it as something that is like very common in whiskey, but I just like. If I do this, I want to drink the whiskeys and I want to savor them and I want to taste them and then eat after.
What was that bourbon tasting we went to and they served up like some crazy milkshake cocktails and we were served like bullet, yeah, fried chicken burgers and hamburgers.
Yeah,
it was all lovely, but
yeah, they actually all worked quite well.
Yeah, they
hid the flavours of the bourbon really nicely.
And my point, exactly, you know?
No, I get it. So sorry, you don't food pair.
I personally don't.
No, okay.
If I was to, it would probably be with like
You'd refuse.
cheese.
Right, okay.
Or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's not something that I do personally, and you know, I appreciate other people do,
Sure.
and it's not.
Sure.
It can be really good, but I think like from my stance, if I do it, I want like maybe some crackers. You know, I want to taste the liquid, and then if you got food afterwards,
I get
bring
that.
it out.
Listen,
you
a
know?
lot of food can be quite overpowering, you know, especially over liquid.
And it's a very fine balance, I think, sometimes, and you can have the most delicious things on the face of the planet, and you can have, you know, like a fucking Michelin star chef come and cook it and it'll be great and it'll be awesome, but then like, you know, as you say, if it's just overpowering what you're actually drinking and it's leaving you with flavors in your mouth that are going to alter what you're tasting, then have you really got a true representation of what
I suppose it depends
drinking?
why you're drinking, though, because I definitely agree with what you're saying. And like
the Cellar Aged launch that we did with like it was a dinner, right? But the way that we ran the tasting was we tasted the liquids
and then had a dinner,
and then we had a dinner that, in my opinion, made sense for makers because it was a cellar aged launch, right? So what we did was we had the evolution of one ingredient, in our case wheat, that ran through every single dish that came out, the way that this is an evolution of the liquid that has come before, right?
And did you have
and then with those dinners, with that dinner, we had a couple dishes with wine, you know, and then we had I believe a couple of cocktails, and at the end with the dessert we had the cellar aged over a block ice as well to just kind of bring it back to why we were there. And the dessert was a Gold Rush granita that was made with makers, so you know, nothing that's really it's almost like a palate cleanser to then bring it back to what you're doing. I think if you're going to do food with it and you're going to bring it back to the liquid, do it with something that's going to cleanse your palate and it's
Sure.
going to wipe it, you know?
I definitely hear what you're saying. I think that there are different experiences to be had, though.
Yeah.
It's like having whiskey neat, whiskey in a cocktail. You will wash away elements of flavors, but hopefully you'll also enhance others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so I think there's but I hear what you're saying. I can understand.
And again, you know,
why you
like
would feel that way.
I've been to some amazing events with, you know, like cocktails, neat spirit and food, and it doesn't, or it's just my opinion.
No,
on
hey,
it,
listen.
So, yeah.
I'm not going to judge you for your opinion when I'm being as fucking brutal with mine
Yeah,
today. So
you can't say
fair
shit.
play. Exactly. You're right. Jeff, where are we at with this one?
At first, this was a bit beyond me. Kind of, it was a bit too punchy, a bit too spicy.
Okay.
But all this talk about pairing food with it, the whole time I've just been thinking pavlova. Like a little bit of strawberry in there. And pairing a pavlova with this, I think that would be banging in my view. Because you've got the sweet with the spice. The strawberry and the pavlova brings out a bit of strawberry content. I'm getting a little bit of strawberry, like tinned strawberry, you know, the syrup.
Okay.
But
I can see that. Maybe
I'm enjoying this, but
placebo.
I think it will take a lot. I've been very impressed with that cask strength. And I think
You were impressed by the cask strength.
yes, I think it's
It was
gonna.
cool.
This one maybe is a bit too be gone for me.
Okay. Interesting.
Where to next, Charlotte? What's this bottle on the end here? You said it was a bit of a special bottle.
Yeah. Obviously, I was saying we don't do single barrels, right? Because we can't. Have you ever heard of the private selection program that we run?
Just from you, briefly beforehand, so no.
Have you ever heard
I'll
of
say
the
no.
private selection?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, I will. So, the private selection it's kind of our way of allowing people to create their own version of 46. So, Bill said that the most fun that he ever had whilst he was with makers was when he was making the 46. And we basically wanted to be able to offer something to, you know, customers, to accounts that would be our equivalent of offering a single barrel program. So we came up with the idea of the private selection program. So what that is it's an invite only program that we do. So different, you know, Germany does it, we do it, the States obviously do it. We all get a different number of barrels allocated to us. So for example, this year I only have 5. And we went back to Independent Stave Company and we were like, we basically want to kind of extend what we're doing with the 46. So they came up with 4 other staves. So the 46 stave is one of the stave options that you can choose in it. But we also then have only one other American oak stave and then 3 more French oak, which again, kind of going back to that kitchen analogy that I used, these staves have been like sliced, diced, cooked in all sorts of ways. And they have been specifically designed to work with one another. The only stave that was designed to be a standalone whiskey was the 46 stave. Although I would argue that one of the staves in this program could definitely be bottled and drank, because for me it just tastes like Magic Stars, you know, like the chocolate. And I fucking rate that. But
Something that transports you back to childhood.
yeah, you know, and it's such a specific chocolate flavor as well.
For
Do you know
sure,
what
for
I
sure,
mean?
for sure.
It's like you know Magic Stars chocolate is Magic Stars chocolate. It's
Definitely.
not.
But bring back the crispy rolls, for God's sake. Anyway.
Well, funny you say no. So all of these staves have been designed to work with one another. So when we do these private selection like picks, what we do is we take everyone through a component tasting of each of the staves. And you'll see it when you do it with people. Sometimes they'll be like, this one's like real spiky and like what, and it's like, well, yeah, because you're not supposed to just drink it like that. But if you put these ones together, and it's super interesting, there's 1,001 different combinations that you can make. The principle is the same as the 46. It's 10 staves inside a barrel for 9 weeks in the cellar.
Okay.
But instead of having just the 46, you've got 5 to create that 10 stave combination.
Okay.
So The community batch is a bottle that we did in conjunction with a nonprofit called the Lee Initiative in the States.
Okay, what's that?
So they are an organization that work on issues to do with like equality and diversity in the restaurant hospitality industry.
Okay.
So we did a lot with them over COVID as well. We actually fed, I think it was like 1.5 million hospitality workers. So this is one of the private selections that we did. So on here as well, you've got like the percentages of what the makeup is of each of the different staves. So obviously with each of them giving different flavors, this actually has a list of all of the partners that we did the barrel with, which I think is really ace. Just going to move that for 1 second.
Swing it out the way.
So this is just an expression
Do you
of
want
one
a
of
fresh
the
glass,
private
or-
selections.
No,
that
you can stick in this one,
we've
please, mate.
done.
Thank you.
TBD.
This is 18% of a stave called the P2, which is a baked American pure stave. So this will give flavors that are sort of like. This will give flavors that are sort of like.
Don't
kind
give
of
up
like
on me just
honeydew,
yet.
Melon, all of that. This is the only other American oak stave in it. So those sort of American oak flavors that you would typically associate, which are kind of like brighter, like lemon, coconut, like melon, that sort of stuff. 22% of a stave that we have called the Cuvée stave. This is like the texture stave, right? This is real like chewy, lots of like brown sugar, caramel. The 46 stave, which obviously you've tried, so those sort of spice flavors is 17%. 28% of the Mondial stave, which is what I call the Magic Star stave. It used to be another
They
stave.
should rename that, definitely.
Oh my God.
They have Magic Stars in America.
No, they have no
yeah.
idea. I was like, tastes like Magic Stars, and they were like,
You're high.
What is that? And I-
Yeah, okay, Charlotte.
Yeah,
I
we got
actually,
good stars
so
here.
one of the accounts I had over, they came over to do their private selection pick at the distillery, and I had asked them, can you please bring some Magic Stars over, because I really need someone to understand
They bought
what
a load
I'm
of
talking
ecstasy.
about. They forgot. Anyway, so it used to be another stave called the Mocha stave, which so the Mondiant stave is very much more kind of like that milk chocolate undertone,
Right.
whereas the Mocha was more of that like dark chocolate, kind of more like bitter cacao.
It's interesting they use that because obviously you said their mission was to get away from bitterness. Obviously,
But
I know
again,
it's an
remember-
important component.
But again, remember that the stave isn't, it's designed to work with the others.
Yeah.
You can have a lineup of 10. We do it almost with like a poker chip system, right?
Right.
So when we're going through them and they're tasting them, they'll be like, okay, 3 of these, and those chips are 10 milliliters. So it's like a blending session,
Right, okay,
right?
okay.
So
And are they dipping these staves into the
process.
cask? Right, yeah, they're hanging them in.
They're just putting them in.
Putting them in,
9
yeah,
weeks
and bringing them
the-
out. And do they put them in individually or all together at once?
All together.
Okay, cool.
So what we've done with when we do the component tasting,
Mm-hmm.
what we do is we do, so like 10 Mondiant staves, 9 weeks in the cellar, and we'll do 10 piece. So you've got like a sort of the truest expression of that you can get.
Yep.
But yeah, when we do the final process, it's whatever their combination is
Okay.
into that barrel.
I like that they...
For that period. But I mean, and like the last one, the spice stave, like this is the most erratic stave that we have. When you try it by yourself, you're like, what the fuck? Because a lot of people will be like, it's like spiky was the last descriptor that was used with the last group that I had out there doing it, because you try it and it gives you this real, it's not like the 46 level of spice, it's like punchy. And you know, a lot of people are put off certain, they'll try one and be like, well, I don't like that, so I don't want to use it. And you're like, yeah, but if you put that with 2 of these, it's wild. You'll have your combination. They'll be like, I'm going to switch one, thinking that it's just going to drop something slightly. And then all of a sudden you've got a completely fucking different liquid again. So it's really interesting because, again, you know, like the only one that was designed to be drank by itself was the 46. How Independent Stave Company like figured that out, that kind of like puzzle
Yeah.
of piecing them together and how they work with one another, honestly, is like beyond. It's super interesting.
It's very smart, yeah. That's cool. I like that they give these percentage breakdowns.
Yeah,
you know?
so we're a very transparent brand and a very transparent company. You know, people, if we have the answers to it and someone asks, we'll give it to
Sure.
you.
One of 6,000 bottles.
That is, yeah.
That's crazy. Nice.
We had another one as well. It's not a private selection, but it's the it's part of one of our wood finishing series, which is called the London City Series. We only did 720 of those. You can only buy them in Heathrow. But we had, you know, Doug, who owns Silo. So Doug McMaster, who owns a restaurant called Silo in London, which it was the world's first zero waste restaurant, and Ryan Chetty, who owns the Lion Group. We basically asked them to recreate in liquid form what they thought, London tasted like.
Cool.
So their kind of their brief that they gave was like something that's a thinker, not a drinker, and like very kind of vague. But I don't know where I've stored that case in my house. I was trying to find it to bring it, but.
So the private selection, is this like a club that anyone can join,
No,
or
so
is this
this is
just an
invite
exclusive?
only.
Right. Oh, right.
You're not
invited.
Yeah.
You are. No, so we do it for, you know, like accounts.
Sure. Big
yeah,
clients
like,
and
yeah.
I get it. That's cool. This is lovely again. You know,
This for me is like a lot brighter.
yes, yeah, I get.
It's got almost like, again, this is just what I get, almost like kind of a sourness to it, which I don't get with the rest of it. But again, this is what
It's a bit funkier.
pick was. Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is what's really interesting about, like, you know, the private selection process in general. If you ever go to a bar or a restaurant or, you know, whatever, and you see that they have it as, I mean, not just from a biased perspective because I work for makers, but, you know, it's always really interesting to try them and see how different they all are to one another, because they're still very much like makers in that kind of undertone, the DNA of what that base liquid is, but like none of them taste the same, you know. And for example, this is as you said, it's got like almost like a funky, for me, like a sourness to it, delicious. And then you've got other people that have done them that have gone real heavy on like one particular stave, and it's probably quite like deeper and richer and like sweeter and like more, you know, whatever. So
I guess that gives them the space to be creative and experiment, whereas
Some
maybe
people-
you know the other things they can't.
yeah, some people will do them to have specifically as like a sipping whiskey. Some people will do them with the like intention of like, this is going into a very particular style of drink that we want to put on a menu, and like, you know, so it's always really interesting to speak to people and see kind of what their intention is when it comes to kind of building that liquid and creating those blocks for whatever that product is going to be.
For sure. Jake?
I quite like this.
Yeah!
You got there in the end. So one negative thing I'll say is the nose is still like really one-dimensional. I'm getting feckin' nothing on the nose. It's corny, and that's about it. There's a little bit of licorice. I've got the licorice again on the palate. The peppermint is much fresher, much more sort of vocal, which I really like. I'm getting toffee apples, which I think is lovely. I'm getting vanilla, which like vanilla is never a wrong
get a lot of
tasting note,
vanilla on
right?
the nose.
I think that, you know, you've got vanillins in casks. If you're ever struggling for a tasting note, and any tasting, whiskey, wine, whatever, anything aged in casks, you can say vanilla and you're always technically right. But I never find vanilla in bourbons. It's like a flavour that's obviously being shrouded for me. And I'm getting this really wonderful, sweet, fresh vanilla. But the toffee apples is something that's quite interesting for me.
That's a fucking good note.
Do you know what I mean? It's sweet. It's a little bit kind of
Do you know, I think that toffee apple
synthetic
you're
sweetness,
talking
but it's
about,
also fresh, fruity sweetness.
I think that apple that you're talking about is what I'm maybe picking out as almost like kind of it's not a bad sour, but I think I don't really like apples because
Right.
I get this from like I'd eat them, but like I get this kind of like acidic sourness to it that I would prefer not to have in
sure.
my
Yeah,
mouth. And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what, it's a nice, but I think that's what
You're picking
I'm
up.
getting from that.
I like it. How much is
I
it a bottle?
can't believe it.
How much is it a bottle?
Well,
If you can fucking get it, because you can't, right? I mean, 6,000 bottles, I'm not going to be able to find one of these, really, am I?
well, no, we don't sell them.
Right. But I mean, I'm sure you'd probably find one for
So,
sale
for
somewhere
example,
if you were
the
lucky,
whiskey
but-
shop have done, I think, about maybe 4 probably more private selections with us. Berry Brothers was one of the groups that I just took out, so they'll be selling theirs. Like the retailers will sell them. Again, it's very much dependent. You could look at it retailing at around like 100, but it could again, like, the RRP of Cellar Aged, started around 145, and it depends where you're going to, that they're going to obviously have their own particular kind of markups that they have. So I would say probably anything from like 100 to maybe like 150.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's not as crazy as I was thinking.
Let's say 100.
When we do a
Keep saying that.
count, what you're essentially doing when we do it with the counts, what they're essentially doing is they're buying the barrel. So you buy that barrel, and then you get give or take, let's say 200 odd bottles out of it, whatever. So, and then they'll use it for whatever purpose they have, whether they choose. I think Schofield's bar in Manchester they've got a private selection. I think that they sell theirs
Right. Okay.
in the bar.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly. I know they sell a few bits there. I think they sell those bottles there as well.
Right.
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure at what price, because it's completely, up to them. It's their barrel. So what you then do with it is your choice. But
I can't get over that toffee apple now, and it's not even the centre, it's that coating, that crunchy
You bite straight through it.
coating on
Yeah,
the outside,
first.
yeah.
I can't believe we got one for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. And like I said, if there was one today, it would be a win. This is a massive win for me, Charlotte. I appreciate
I
you
wish I would have
sticking with
found
me.
the London one. No, you're all good.
Should have started on that.
These are the
It's
best.
good.
These-
This is good. This is really
nice.
good. I like it.
It-
There's
like-
also kind of I can't quite put my finger on the juice. It's kind of like grapefruit and orange juice together, like really freshly squeezed juice. There's some sort of citrusy...
I know what you're saying there, yeah.
Something. I can't quite put my finger on it. I've run out now, but that was good. I really enjoyed that. And at 100 quid, I don't want to ruin the roundup.
Like,
That's
don't quote me
worth
on that.
it.
Please don't quote me on that.
But I would happily pay that. You say 150 to 180 for the last one?
I will say the Cellar Aged, though, like the general consensus that I have understood of people that are buying the Cellar Aged are your like big bourbon fans, like your makers fans, your collectors, because of the fact that this isn't a yearly release,
an annual thing. Yeah, no, for sure.
Which in that context, if you are a bourbon drinker and you are a makers fan, I do believe that's an incredibly like accessible price point for what that is, if that's what you're into.
So, I mean, in theory, if I started being really nice and just saying I love everything makers, what would it take to come along to do our own private selection? Like, do we have to be selling boatloads of the other stuff in order to...
You have to like it to begin with, mate.
Yeah.
No, but this is what I'm saying, is I really like that. And I think like that shows to me that there is
Do you know what?
a combination, like I'd love to bottle a bourbon that I really got behind under the whiskey baron to be like, this is fucking good bourbon. Because there is. It's like people say to me, I don't like whiskey. That's why I hate saying I don't really like bourbon, because technically it's not true. I've now tried 3 bourbons in my life that I actually enjoyed, like genuinely enjoyed. Not just that are palatable and okay, but I actually really enjoyed that. I think
it's all
good.
Jim Beam.
But this is it. I think like it's good to be able to keep looking for stuff. But for me, I struggle with bourbon, and it annoys me because people say I don't like scotch, I don't like whiskey, I don't like this, don't like that. So, you haven't tried enough of it.
Yeah, and
But what would it take if I wanted to bottle something like that? What do I have to do? Do you have to sell like boatloads of other stuff?
So, like, the way that we look at the kind of selection of who we. It's. I have the power. No, so like there are obviously like some. There were certain requisites in place, which I'm kind of looking at with a different lens right now, because before what it was, because of the fact that we have such a low allocation, a lot of it was going to, you know, sort of like real prestige, and that's great, right? Because ultimately you need to be able to get through the barrel. You know, 200 odd, but you go from 200 to 240, give or take. I don't know. It depends on the barrel, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a small amount, and you need to be able to get through it. So, you know, we generally ask for like the kind of guarantee that you can get through it. But then, you know, I've spending more time at Star Hill Farm and really kind of seeing what we're doing from a sustainability perspective, you know, in particular, and how we, you know, we work with farmers that are like practice regenerative agriculture, and, you know, everything that we're doing with the brand is very much kind of with that future lens.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think it's necessarily fair to exclude certain venues that might be doing everything that we're doing, you know, to whatever degree they do from an in-venue perspective. But just because they're not like a 5-star hotel, you know, I don't think that's fair, because, you know, I know that I want to work with other places that share that maker's like mindset and values and ethos and everything that they do. You would need to be able to sell the bottles, or like you're
200 bottles of a bourbon. I truly believe in.
You're committing to buying a barrel. You know?
Yeah.
So again, what you do with that barrel is up to you. I think in the States you can pay to do it from a consumer perspective, although I'm not 100% sure, because obviously I don't work in the States, and there's certain things that are different there to here. But yeah, I would look for accounts that I know can get through the liquid, that have that kind of like that has the maker's kind of like values at heart in everything that they do. And it's not something that like we just do and it's like, okay, well, you've done it and like we never speak to you again. When we do it, it's a long-term
for sure
partnership. So it's something that we look at with, okay, like what is like the 5-year plan with you, you know? Because I also think that's important. I think that, you know, there's loads of brands that you could go and you could do a single barrel pick, or you could do whatever, and then that's sort of it, and that's the end of the story with them. But, you know, everything that we like to do is purposeful and
building relationships.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I like it. All right. That's exciting.
We got there.
I didn't say you could have one though.
No, we'll get one. Anyway, 5 interesting bourbons, if nothing else. I know that you really enjoyed yourself, Stevie. Jeff, you enjoyed dramming away here?
I'm having a great time. I'm just going to go sit in the corner and just sip away with this one.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we go away and sit in the corner or anything, let's do a roundup, because I want to talk about price-wise here. I want to do a bit of a rating. Now, Charlotte, we're not going to ask you for your ratings on each of them, but I am going to ask you what your favourite of the lineup here is and what you're most excited about moving forward, if there's anything new or interesting coming up. So have a think about it. We'll come back to you for a minute in that one. What we're going to do first and foremost is a roundup of what we've tried. So we need to have price points. We have a buy, a don't buy, an oosh if it's really good, or a bin it. Okay? We've got through the whiskies. Last little bit here. Start with the Maker's Mark. Standard entry level. Price point on that one here in the UK. Where are we at roughly?
I think you can buy that in supermarkets around 30 quid.
It goes on sale as well a lot.
I was going to say,
You can
I was
often
going to say
get it.
£25 to £30. So
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
definitely see it on sale.
Yeah.
Let's say £30, clean cut, all said and done. I'll start with you, Jeff. You're the guest.
It's an oosh for me.
It's an oosh.
Wow.
That
A very
one-
strong start.
Yeah,
God.
that one, special place in my heart. It's so good, and no matter how you drink it, I'm a simple man. I'm not saying that's a simple whiskey, but there's something about it that can fit every situation.
Yep.
Like some of the others are spectacular, but that one I could mow the lawn and have just a glass of Maker's Mark on the go, and it would still be as good as if I was sat down drinking it with other people. You know, it's
Right.
Yeah, it's one I'll always have, and
it's a nostalgic memory for you. So,
yeah, that's it.
Cool. I love it. All right, a really strong start with an oosh.
It's a strong buy for me. I mean, it's something that is in the cupboard a lot.
I was going to say, I see this in your cupboard all the time.
But it doesn't last long.
No, for sure. But you buy it again, so definitely.
Yeah, look, it's a great bourbon. You know, it's a very it stands out from other bourbons. Let's just say that it's got something a little bit different from it, which is why the price point is probably a little bit higher than others. It's a solid, easy, cool range bourbon that you can go pick up on sale and have it with anything on its own, ice, whatever. It's good. Strong buy.
Tidy. I don't know if I made it clear. I'm not a really big fan of bourbon, Charlotte.
Why did you invite me here?
I would seldom buy a bourbon. However, I love learning about brands. I love backstories. I love people who are passionate. I love brands that are passionate and that have the future in mind. And I can honestly say now that if I was going to buy an entry-level bourbon, it would honestly probably go into cocktails. But that's the one I would go for now, because you've got me excited about the brand. Like, straight up, it's not something I would have bought before. After today, I can genuinely say at £30, I would buy that. I would put it in cocktails. I'd really enjoy those cocktails. I've tried many cocktails with this before.
It's just
it's
really
6 years old, isn't it?
Spirit mixer as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I didn't know about bourbon is that, and especially Maker's Mark, it's like 6 years. It's not your 3 years or your 4 years.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
not even your 5 years.
Yeah.
It's your 6 years.
It's your 6 years. But do you know what I mean? That's 6 years.
No, yeah.
It's not just a flash fucking.
No, for sure. I think it's good. I think it does the job. It does what it says on the tin. And as somebody who doesn't like bourbon saying he's going to buy it, we've got a strong start. A little bit nervous about the next one. Maker's Mark 46. Where are we at price point on this one? You said give or take 45, 50 pounds.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's about 45. Depends where you buy it.
Okay. Jeff?
Let me double check. I might be wrong.
So I definitely bought this bottle at least twice in the past. I don't know if I'd buy it again just for... Get excited now. From the step up from the standard and from trying the cash strength, I feel like that middle slot.
Where are we at?
40, 45.
Okay.
Depends.
What's under a buy? Not an oosh, not a buy. Is there one?
No, you've got buy or don't buy, mate. Is it a don't buy?
I think it'd be a don't buy just because how much I like the next one, but that's spoilers for later.
But you've bought these before, so you've enjoyed them before.
You've put them into a box with only one option for each, so...
Yeah, and I'm a very cheap man. Like, you can tell by these shirts, I don't spend a lot of money on my clothes. And like that... I could buy it again, but I think I'm going to put it in.
You'd go for something else instead. Yeah. It's not that you don't like it.
I've found other things.
You're now looking at different parts of it. That's fair enough. Look, if you've already tried it, you've enjoyed it, just about don't buy, that's fair enough. We'll give you that one, but it's not bad.
Unfortunately, it may have impressed his dad, but it didn't tick the boxes for me. Okay. It's nice. I like the approach. I did enjoy it. Was it that much of a step up from... The core range? Probably not for me. I did find it a bit thinner. Maybe I'm just having an off day.
Yeah.
But now I know what's ahead. I'd probably save my my pocket money, let's say, for that. So I am going to give this one a miss. But I did enjoy it, and thank you for bringing it, Charlotte.
You're welcome.
I'm going to be quick and clean. I'm sorry I put this one in the bin.
We already know.
I'm really sorry. I didn't enjoy this one. I didn't enjoy this one because of the price point. It's not vastly worse than the first one. I just, the price point makes zero fucking sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that much difference, and I would just buy the first one.
All right, cool.
Unfortunately, because of the price, it goes in the bin for me. Next. Thank you very much, Stevie. Moving on to the cask strength. Where are we at price point on this one?
I think the whiskey shops sell this for about...
Charlotte, it's not a good representation. They're always overpriced. Let's find it
in supermarkets.
Let's find it somewhere where it sells it for the price it should be.
You just take the whiskey shop price and just take a 20% off.
Exactly. I'm such a cunt. 66 pounds.
60 to 65.
Okay,
60,
cool.
Let's say 65.
Let's say 65. There we go. Yeah, apart from the whiskey shops £80. Sorry, Jeff.
Is it?
I don't know.
Oh,
Probably.
cheaper.
I wouldn't be surprised.
65, I'm a buy. I've not had the cask strength, and I love, I've said sometimes I love the standard, but that is a well worth step up, so I'm buying the cask strength. Because even I can water it down and then it can last me longer. At that punch, yeah, that tickles my pickle. That's my jam, that one. That's my going to be go-to Maker's Mark.
You know what's annoying? It's like we don't sell it, I think, in anywhere other than duty free, but the 101 is like for me, the pinnacle of what makers should be and should taste like, because it's just that perfect proof point. But I didn't bring it, so you can't get it. Like
We'll take your
unless
word
it's
for
really,
it.
yeah, no. I mean, it didn't seem you can't get it. So.
But if we're liking the cask strength,
you can water
look
it
out
down
for
a
that
bit.
Yeah.
in the duty free.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And do you know what? And like maybe I'm wrong. So, but I'm pretty sure that they sell it in the duty free for like 40 quid.
Oh, shit.
Oh shit!
think
Fair
so.
play.
I think
Okay, so that's one to look out for then. Fair. Okay, Stevie, cask strength.
It's a strong buy. It's great. It's great value for money. As like a big Scotch drinker and a whiskey drinker, you don't really have too many bourbons, let alone cask strength bourbons in your cabinet. Well, I don't, and I know people that drink a lot of Scotch, and they don't. You certainly don't. But like, I think if you've
I've got bourbons, I just don't drink them.
I just use them to fuel the van. It's awesome. I think it's a really good price point. It's something a bit different. It gives that. It just turns it all up for me from the 46 and the core range. I really enjoyed it. Strong buy.
Cool. I would buy this. I didn't mind it. I thought there was more on offer there.
Sorry?
I would buy it.
Jesus.
I would see this as an entry level bourbon that I would drink neat.
Cool.
So I would equally put it in cocktails, and I'm sure it'd be really lovely. I can think of a couple that I'd love to mix up. But yeah, at that price point, it's not as outrageous as I thought it might be. I'd give it a punt. You know, it's not something that I'm really excited about. It's not a strong buy, but it's a buy. See, I'm being nice.
Yeah, you do, right? Right, moving on to the Cellar Aged.
Cellar Aged, 150 to £185. So let's call it 160. Let's be nice. Let's
Remind
be on the generous
us,
side of that.
age, percentage, what we got in there again?
12-year-old.
12 and 11 and 12-year-old.
87% 12-year-old, 13%
11-year-old.
11-year-old.
So you have said that 3
Annual
times, so.
release, 900 bottles.
Okay.
Cool.
So very exclusive.
Jeff,
It sold out real quick.
160
40
pounds,
minutes.
Sir.
Only like
definitely-
Berry Brothers in
Berries.
particular. I
Still,
know their
that's
allocation
crazy.
went, but yeah, no, it's
Okay.
the 24 is going to drop in October again.
And what's the age statements on that? Sorry. Same.
I'm not allowed to tell you.
No
what the
exclusives
price
here, Charlotte.
Uh-uh.
Okay, maybe you can
I
tell
do
us
know,
after.
but I'm not allowed to tell you. But
tell us later off camera.
the idea with it is that every year the proof will be different, the blend will be different.
So it's not essentially going to get older, or it can be
It could be anything.
Cool.
It could be that it's like
4-year-old, 6-year-old.
no, it
No,
would-
yeah, that's illegal.
That's that.
Yeah.
No, but it could be that it's like X amount of percentage
Sure.
one thing, whatever, you know.
They're gonna
but
change
they're
it up
gonna
quite a
change
bit.
it every
Cool.
year.
Jeff.
Jeff,
It's,
£160.
Yes, not buy, I'm afraid to say. It, for me, is a bit. It felt overgone, if that's a bad description, probably. But it felt like the cask strength and then kind of diminishing returns, especially for that cost. Like, I'm cheap. That's beyond my bottle budget. And yeah, no, it's a don't buy for me, I'm afraid to say.
Okay. Stevie?
Unfortunately, it is a don't buy. It is a lot of money, right? And it didn't. I think I would rather have 2 to 3 bottles of that cask strength over the Cellar Aged. It was really interesting to try, and it was really interesting to see what happens if you leave it that long. And it actually turns out really well, but it's just the price point. But you know, don't let that put other people off. If you see that in a bar, if it is in a bar and you can try it by the dram, do, because it is great. I just can't, for me personally, warrant price point. So unfortunately, it's a pass.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, look, different strokes for different folks. And, you know, don't let anything that I'm saying today, guys, to tell you. But to me, £160 for that is mild insanity, to be quite honest. I would put that right in the bin at that price. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. It was lovely to try it. I think it's really interesting.
Taste alone, forget the price. Does it go in the bin?
It's not a buy. It's not a buy from the taste.
Okay.
And because of the price, it goes in the bin.
Well, of course, if there's no price, you
Yeah,
can't buy it. But
so-
did you
but
enjoy the flavour?
No, not particularly.
Okay, fine. That's all I just wanted to know.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. On the flavour alone, it would be a don't buy, but because of the price, it's a bin. And I'm sorry to say that. I really enjoyed trying it.
Rude.
It's interesting. I know, right? Not making any friends. But no, look, like Stevie said, for me, 3 of the cask strength makes far more sense to me. It just does. But if you're a bourbon fiend, if you're into that sort of thing, I get it. I get why people would buy it, you know, and I wouldn't be shy to spend that sort of money on the bottle if I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And coming on to the last one, that's where I was thinking you were going to say £200. And to me, you know, I'd still consider that. For the last one, I would consider £200 any day.
Oh, well, if you want, mate, take it.
Yeah.
Charlotte will...
Venmo me.
Let's move on to
Obviously, she won't be doing that, Maker's Mark. But...
Community, batch release. This is from, sorry, who was this for?
This is a private selection done by...
A conglomerate of, sorry.
Is it
this
Lee?
many people.
So this is
what was
the
the
biggest
charity?
one that
Lee
you've done thus far.
Initiative.
Lee Initiative.
Yeah, the Lee Initiative are a partner that we do a lot with in the States. But yeah, this was normally it would just be one account, and you know, you can't see shit on this, but
no, there are a lot of accounts.
Normally it would just be one account, but this was
a lot.
Yeah. So community.
Community.
But this was a very particular one that we did. It wouldn't be the norm for the private selection process, but
so price wise on these, generally you're looking at give or take 100. Should we say £120? Maybe.
Yeah.
You're just saying.
Yeah. Again, you know, because it's very much down to the accounts, you know.
Yeah.
So if you've got a bar that's going to sell the bottles, you can sell it from whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Do these show up on auction a lot? Oh, not really.
No.
No.
I mean, not that I know of.
People probably drink
this
them.
is showing up on auction.
It's the Cellar
Cellar
Aged.
Aged is, but
What's it going for?
You don't want to know.
No, I know, right?
it's going wild.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, when you say
Not like Macallan wild.
No, but like, would it double in value?
20,000
No. Would it double in value though?
It has.
Over
in
£300.
some places I've seen it has.
That is insane.
But
Like,
again,
insanity.
it's the audience though that it's.
I follow a lot of like YouTubers, Jeremy Sears being one of them, shout out, he's a big bourbon fan, and I know that bourbon community will go fucking wild for things like that Cellar Aged, because that's their thing, and I do get it, and I know you get it, whatever.
I've still got a
For
bottle
me,
of
but I
Pappy
can't.
that's completely unopened that I bought for feck all. I could flip it around for silly money. I'm not going to, because I want to enjoy with somebody like yourself who really likes bourbon, who's passionate.
For sure.
I want to hear what your thoughts are.
But I know it's crazy.
Where is
that-
it?
I don't have it here. It's,
I'm kidding.
I should have bought it, but no, it's the thing.
But do you know what I mean? That's who's buying that.
It feeds back into who. Remember that people were asking us for it, and it's not going to be like your average Scotch drinker that's like demanding an older bourbon. You know, so it's a very
niche bourbon
particular
community.
market that this was. I don't want to say that this was made for. This wasn't made for anyone. This was made, you know, for flavor.
Yeah.
Over anything, but the people that are going to be buying it and looking for it and wanting to try it are going to be the same way that you have with Scotch. People that are looking for those like more niche bottles and those collector bottles.
Sorry, is this the bottle here?
That's the community
No,
one, yeah?
hang on, let me see.
Yeah.
If it says the
Does that say
community on it, then
Oh, yeah, no.
$70.
Oh, I don't-
$70? Is that actually
Thewhiskeywash.com, is that a
buy now.
reliable source? Anyone?
to buy now?
Don't know.
Is that available to
How
buy?
much is the shipping?
It has a buy now button. Let's see if it's actually in stock.
Mark Littler, I think, the Whiskey Wash.
Currently no prices. Oh, is it? Cellar Aged 249.
Sorry, what are we saying? Is it 70 or is it 249?
No, sorry, I'm reading something else. It says $70 here. Oh, look, you can see it, right?
Can you click buy now?
Well, I click it and it says currently no UK, something like that.
Oh.
So I don't know if that
So
was
I think
retail.
that's-
No, it wouldn't be retail, but you know what I mean.
$70.
That's
In
good.
the
$70.
UK, I don't believe it was.
Let's say £100.
No.
I just
Can't be.
I just have
That would be
Let's
50
say,
quid.
Yeah,
Would
no,
be
that
mental.
sounds insane. Let's say £100 because I think, like you say, if somebody's going to be buying it, importing it, spending the money on buying a whole they're going to want a bit of a margin. I can't imagine it selling for less than £100.
Here, in this market. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. £100 in the UK. Yeah. So we work on £100 basis.
It was $70 per bottle. Everyone's saying it on articles and stuff.
Oh, that's insane.
And don't forget, this is it's not at least, it's $7.50, of course. So.
I'm going on the private selection basis.
Sorry, I'm talking out of yeah, you would know. I'm just going on people's fucking articles here.
£100 for the community. I'm going to say £100 because I think you could find it for $100. If it's $70 release.
I think it's a buy for £100. It's the most interesting out of all of them. It's had every single flavour of Starburst. Every time you sipped it, it was something different.
Starburst is a really good one, actually.
I think I can go now, thanks. I've made it. None of that hedgy anymore. No more bushy stuff here. But yeah, no, I've really enjoyed that. And that's one I've just been sat in, just every sip is just something different.
Yeah.
And the backstory helps sell it as well, doesn't it? The whole...
You're saying you're cheap, £100, you obviously really enjoyed it.
Yeah, but maybe I'm just feeling flash after having a fair few whiskeys. I'll get home and look at my bank account and I'll be crying on the journey home.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
all right. Still, I'm good. Okay, you really enjoyed that. Stevie, where are you at on that? £100.
Oh, mate, it's a buy all day long. Again, I don't want to repeat myself, but to have something interesting that's bourbon in your cabinet that you can flash around when people come around, especially Scotch drinkers, that is so worth the money. Over the Cellar Aged, I think it's a much more...
And again, I would like to reiterate to anyone, if you see a maker's private selection in any bar or wherever, try it. Because then it's not going to be different. The same. They're all different.
Yeah.
And ask them, because in theory, the staff should know.
Yeah, for sure. If they've got it stocked.
And if they don't, you let me know. No, but definitely, as you say, it's worth trying them because they're so unique.
Sure. Well, that's it as well. Limited run. Not going to try it again. They probably won't muck around with the same percentages again of cast days. But
some accounts do.
Well, they do repeat.
If they have the option to reselect when they get their next barrel. So
all right.
You can't. Some people will just
re-up.
Sure.
Keep going.
Well, to be fair, if someone came to me and says, "What do you want to do?" I'll be like, "Stick with this. It's fucking good." But no, there's so much depth in this. The caramel is rich. It just works so well for £100. Are we saying? Yeah, it's an oosh.
Oh, he's just leveled up. Yeah,
it's an oosh.
It's an oosh, Stevie. Yeah, look, this is the third bourbon I've ever tried where it's not just good for a bourbon. It's not just I'll take another one out. I really enjoyed that. It was really good.
I'm shocked.
I'm really happy, and thank you so much for sticking with me.
It wasn't personal, Charlotte.
It wasn't. No, look, it's never personal.
I'll say as well, these types of things are probably more my favourite because it's all well and good sitting in a room of people that are will just nod and be like, yep, love it.
Mm-hmm.
These are much more interesting and more dynamic conversations, and being able to get to a point where you're like, I actually like one is very rewarding for me. Not that I did anything, but I'm taking it as a
You stuck with us.
Win.
You stuck with us for the afternoon. Look, as I said...
If I can convert at least one person every time I do anything that is, tastings or whatever,
that's a win
I'm
for the
happy.
Brand. Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, I think, as we've said already, I really enjoyed listening to you this afternoon and learning about the brand. And that's why I wanted to get you down here. For everyone at home, for Stevie, glad that Jeff's a bourbon drinker as well. And it's been a win for me because, like I say, all I wanted was to like one. I wanted to enjoy one of these. And I really enjoyed that last one. It's interesting. It's dynamic. And I've now tried 3 bourbons I can genuinely say are really good bourbons. So it's a very, very strong buy for me. And to be honest, I'd probably be verging towards the use. It doesn't quite get there for me. But it's a really, really good flavour. I'm really impressed. I'm excited about Maker's Mark now. So thank you for sticking with us. I have to say, we've reached out to a bunch of different bourbon brands and people, and we're trying to get there. And people would say, we'll get there eventually. I think some people are maybe a little bit...
if Charlotte knew how you felt,
unsure,
she would have said no as well.
If I had known, I would have come with 2 suitcases.
Yeah. You've taken it really, really well, Charlotte, and I appreciate your patience and you guiding us through this brand. It's really, really interesting. For everyone at home, again, you can follow Charlotte. You're on Instagram, aren't you?
Yep.
Before we wrap up, Jake, sorry,
go on.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
What's your favourite child?
Oh, I was going to ask in a second, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, mate.
I was just going to say, follow Charlotte on Instagram because you're always doing loads of different events and interesting things and tastings, and there's so much that you can learn if you can't meet her in person.
Yeah, you got some good American stories going up when you're out there.
Oh yeah, I'm now a cowgirl.
Documented it. That's cool.
I'm always floating about somewhere.
Cool. Yeah, and this is the thing. We met at an event, and if you ever now see Maker's Mark at an event, head over, say hello to Charlotte, and I'm sure she'll share some wonderful bourbons with you. And if she has the community, make sure she pours you that one first because it's delicious.
I've always got something hidden away, so.
Cool. So Charlotte, as Stevie said, we did ask you, what's your favourite of this lineup here? And why?
I can only pick one.
Well, given that it's a favourite, yeah.
Alright. I'm gonna go against the grain with all of you, and I'm gonna say that the Cellar Aged is, for me,
okay.
Probably I can't pick that because the private selections are all so different that I can't pick one. Private selections in general are definitely something that I like leaning towards when I go and visit places.
Because you get to try the diversity of your spirit.
Exactly. And a lot of these will have happened before I was in Rot, so it's always really interesting to go and try different things. But for the purpose of that I like the entire kind of program, I'm not going to pick the community batch because I don't feel like it's a fair fight for all the other delicious private selections that I've tried.
Okay.
But I'm going to pick the Cellar Aged because I am a bourbon drinker. I do find it really delicious. I think it's one of the more interesting things that we've done that is readily available. When it comes out, readily available.
Yeah.
Things like the wood finishing series, a lot of it you can only get at the Distillery and so on. So again, not really fair. I'd say between probably the Cask Strength and the Cellar Aged.
Cool. Okay.
They'd be the two that I choose to drink and sip, and that Cellar Aged is one that I do frequently order and drink and sip when I'm in London.
Cool. Okay. Well, this is the thing. I think, it is such a subjective thing.
Yeah.
What I like, you may not, and vice versa. And I think, guys, again, I went into this with as an open a mind as is possible. And I think that's what everyone needs to do. Just because you maybe have tried a whiskey or a rum or a bourbon or whatever it is that you haven't enjoyed before, doesn't mean you're not going to enjoy all of them. Keep your mind open, keep trying stuff, and keep learning, because that's the important thing, right? Yeah. Cool. What about what's coming up? Have you got anything exciting in the works?
The Cellar Aged 2024.
Which you can't tell us anything about.
How old is that again?
Yeah, how old is that?
Oh, nearly.
Almost.
Nearly.
It's delicious. I haven't tried it, but I know that it's
deliciously
delicious.
Aged.
I haven't actually tried the liquid, but I know what it is, and I have every faith that it's going to be fucking banging.
Better than this one?
It different. It's you can't compare. You can't compare.
Well, when it comes out, we'll get them together. And then you can
Jake can be the judge of that.
I don't know if I want him to be the judge of it. No, we've got a couple of private selections coming out, which obviously they're not retail, but if you are going to be in Edinburgh, we've just done a private selection with Commons Club. That was really delicious. Kind of the final blend that we came up with. So it's still going to be a good few months before it's ready. Mm-hmm. But looking forward to that. And also Berry Brothers as well. We did a private selection with, again, it's still going to be a hot second before it's available. So we can't really shout too much about them because they're not here.
Right.
But when that does come around, I'm looking forward to that as well.
Cool. Lots of exciting things on the horizon then. And it sounds like a brand that has the future in mind, definitely. So
100%.
You've got an exciting future ahead. Listen, really appreciate you joining us. And, I know you've been at the role a year now, but congratulations. I haven't seen you since you moved. So it's lovely to see you with a brand that you're really passionate about, and you're obviously really enjoying your role. So it's great to see. Thank you all at home for joining us and for sticking with me and my whingy mentality. I found one that I like, though. It's been a win. It's been a great afternoon. I've really enjoyed that. Let us know in the comments what your favourite Maker's Mark is. But for now, we will leave you to it. Thank you all for joining. This has been Uncut and Unfiltered. We will see you next time. Slán